Broadcasting Network.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show. I've got Alex in the studio with me. I'm David Knight filling in the rest of the show. But Alex is joining us today to talk about the Hunger Games and to talk about the burgeoning police state. You know, it's one thing, we talk about that all the time. We see it happening all over the country. It's one thing to talk about it. It's one thing to understand it. It's another thing to experience it firsthand. And that's exactly what Alex and most of the InfoWars crew did last week. I was watching it here live in the studio. It was pretty amazing. But even then, it's not the same as being in the middle of it, is it, Alex?
That's right, folks. And again, it is Tuesday, the 26th day of November, 2013. And as usual, wild horses cannot drag me away. I had more stuff I had to do today, but I am going to go home early today, and I've actually got my children up here with me today at the office. But we're getting some other things finished, working on the Obama Deception 2, working on the nightly news, finishing up some work on the new studio. Really a busy operation here in the fight for liberty. But I thought, while I'm here, why not give folks my review of the Hunger Games? I know it's been out since last Friday, but I went and I saw it last night and have some reflections on that coming up in the next segment that I will then tie into some of the police state news just that we see locally here in Austin, Texas, and outside Austin, Texas, where, according to the cell phone video, a young man saw two girls fighting, so he was standing there, and then was walking away and had done nothing, and he wasn't a troubled student. He was a good student, and they tasered him in the back in Bastrop, a Mr. Rivera, 17-year-old young man, and he fell over, bashed up in his head, and is in a coma, and they believe he's going to die if they take him off life support. So I just wanted to point that out, that the police are militarized. They have been trained that we're the enemy. The conversion over to this system is almost complete, and we are living in the Hunger Games.
That's right.
And it really clicked when I saw the film that, my goodness, we're already living in this, and this is Agenda 21. This group of books and what is in the film is literally the neo-feudalist system where we're under serfdom in a post-industrial world, living at starvation levels with a ration card, and if we go above our calories, we're killed. Mm-hmm. That's literally the books. And then there's high-tech megacities with super advanced nanotech, you name it. That is actually in the plans going back to the 20s with Huxley and his brother and all of the top eugenicists. This is really their plan, and they're really deploying it. So I want to talk about that when we come back. Plus, we have a special new radio/TV intro. Darren McBreen is just an amazing editor and also a great reporter. And so I kind of quasi-directed this piece with him. And it's a nice little 3-minute intro that's only a small section of how serious the police state is. So if a police state came, would we notice it? Well, some of us have, and then we, of course, are the heretics. We're criticized. And in most authoritarian societies, they admit you're under an authoritarian society. It's just implicit. Here, it's this no man's land where those of us that are not completely brain dead know we're in deep trouble, but then the rest of the public are in denial. But that denial is rapidly boiling away, and so now they're taking the velvet glove off the iron fist. Also up on Infowars.com. For some reason, we didn't post it to the YouTube channel yesterday, but it was on prisonplanet.tv and premiered on the radio. We have the Vivian Kubrick impromptu on-the-street interview that Josh Owens did a great job putting together and editing. And we're going to have a more focused boil down to that coming up in the next few days in the nightly news, because I know you're a big Kubrick fan. So David Knight's going to be hosting the whole show with a bunch of special guests, a ton of news. I'll be with you for the next segment straight ahead. So again, the InfoWar will continue on the other side, and you, of course, can follow all of what we do on Twitter at Real Alex Jones, and the Facebooks and all the rest of it are listed on Infowars.com. In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filters today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even if I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
His name?
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly. I order all those assembled to immediately disperse.
It's a military mission in North St. Louis. Heavily armored vehicles are rolling into town.
And don't be alarmed if you see those over the next 7 days rolling through your neighborhood.
If you see military helicopters flying low over Minneapolis, do not be alarmed.
Guns will be taken. No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in.
Just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Enough. 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 The Department of Homeland Security is apparently on a huge ammo buying spree.
It comes out to like 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition.
And as KSLA News 12 Jeff Farrell discovered, the clergy would help the government with potentially their biggest problem, us.
So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Mercury-containing vaccines may help, not harm kids, according to 2 new studies in the journal Pediatrics.
Black Hawk choppers soaring through the night sky, but this is only a drill. Heavily armed officers in Watertown search for the suspect, house to house.
It's a joint military training exercise involving local police, also military.
In your apartment! I am in my apartment, sir.
Go back inside right now!
I am inside. I have 2 words for you. Predator drones. You will never see it coming.
The dramatic scene played out in front of our cameras. Parents grabbing their children and running after spending the night hunkering in their houses and then finding themselves face to face with the muzzle of a SWAT officer's rifle.
They let them in the area. They told them they could come in, and now they're coming in like they're trespassers, punching and shoving people.
We're not turning our guns in, and we're not running, and we're not backing down. If you want them, come and take them.
We are on the march. The Empire is on the run. Live from the Infowars.com studios, it's Alex Jones.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
This is the heart of 1776.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and I'm here live in the studio with Alex Jones. That was an amazing new intro put together by the people that are working on the documentary. That's a sample of what's going to be coming up in this documentary. Darren McBreen and others put that together. That's a great segment, Alex.
Well, I wanted to actually, the last few weeks we've been working on some new intros, and that's just one of them for the radio/TV show and the nightly news, just to illustrate on different subjects a small snippet of what we're really facing, what we're really dealing with. And I wanted to segue with that because I want to give folks my review of the Hunger Games and then tie it in to the things that are currently happening in our world today. And then I'm going to leave you at the end of this segment, and you've got a bunch of guests coming up and a ton of really important news. But I will be popping in tomorrow and then again on Friday with you. We're running a rebroadcast, obviously, on Thanksgiving on Thursday. And I think I'm going to go out Thursday night and Friday and cover, maybe with some live feeds. Maybe I'll go out and report for you from the street Friday with some live feeds of the Black Friday madness, because that's always a great illustration of the stampeding and rioting and things that happen. So we'll have that for folks on Friday into the weekend as well. But we're live. It is Tuesday, the 26th day of November, 2013. And I'm your host, and you're co-hosting with the hosts of InfoWars Nightly News. And, of course, that is David Knight. Now, we just showed people a small cross-section of all over the country. The military is rolling out, preparing for war, not with Al-Qaeda, but with the Tea Party, with gun owners, with veterans, with Christians. They have the IRS. They have the other agencies persecuting them illegally. We have the president on at least 8 different fields, from war to energy to open borders to Obamacare. The list goes on, to federal appointments, operating completely outside of Congress and saying he doesn't need Congress. This has never happened, except under total martial law with Abraham Lincoln. This has never happened. And I have to say, that was on the war he acted dictatorial, not on all other issues. So Obama is officially, by every yardstick, on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10 being a total maximum dictator, Adolf Hitler, Saddam Hussein. Obama is about a 7 now. And the persecution's going on, and the arms buildup is going on. And
well, he set up the entire infrastructure. I mean, just because he hasn't started shooting people in the streets or rounding them up and putting them in prison camps, it doesn't mean that, that's what you're talking about, the 7 on the scale of 1 to 10. He's set up the infrastructure for tyranny. And just as they had in this video, he started it and he ended it with a military-industrial complex speech by Eisenhower, because that's what's driving this. It's the accumulation of weaponry.
Absolutely. And directing that little intro, that's only a smidgen of the stuff I could have put in there. We could have an hour-long intro just showing more craziness on top of more insanity, because it's not crazy. It is the cold, calculated takeover of society. So what I'm explaining to people here is, in Nazi Germany, in the first decade of the Soviet Union or the Bolshevik takeover before the formation of the Soviet Union, that's how it began, was bureaucratic persecution and tax persecution. That's how what Hitler did with the Jews and others was, messing with their businesses, not letting them operate, auditing them, sending CPS to take their kids. This is already going on. And the CPS manuals demonize homeschoolers. We would have ABC News and others come up, the Associated Press as well, and would say to our folks that were out there demonstrating in Dallas on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they'd say, "Are you a homeschooler? Do you own guns?" And these reporters, the ones that are left inside the system, were absolutely animated with demoniac glow. This one woman that was talking to Gucciardi, I walked over and she turned on me and was like smiling with hate. And I mean, these are actual operatives. Folks have to understand now who's left in the system are either people that are total mercenaries and hate their job. And I talked to some of those, high level and mid level and low level. I mean, Dallas Morning News writer came up in my hotel and she goes, "Oh, my dad's a huge listener. I want a photo for him. Yeah, I'm here to write this piece. It's so great what you're doing." And then the piece comes out and it's a negative hit piece. So that's the type of stuff that goes on because they will not let it get out. The Dallas Morning News, by the way, is highly controlled. My mother worked there for many years. Oh, yeah. And I'm not going to get into that, but the whole point is
we can see that from the story that they put out. I mean,
there's a bunch of them, and they were all literal, twisted fictions mixed in with some truths. Now, in the time we've got left here, I want to get into all this news and talk about the Hunger Games in context. I went to the Hunger Games last night with my wife, and the first one was pretty good. The second one had unbelievable cinematography. Just the scenes driving in the train, the scenes of the sports stadiums, the way they can. I mean, this was delicious to the eye. This film was delicious to the eye. You've seen it as well on Friday. But looking at it, you see, this is all coming true. This is all happening. This is actually the Agenda 21 exact plan. This woman who wrote it is either a total patriot and aware of what's going on and super smart, or she's a total operative. And we tried to contact her many times. Obviously, she hasn't gotten back with us because publishers and folks don't let somebody that big usually do interviews. They try to tie them down. But who knows? She might be a listener like Vivian Kubrick, and her interview is now up on Infowars.com for folks that want to see it from yesterday if you're a radio listener. But looking at this is the dream. This is the greatest approximation of the competing eugenicist transhumanist programs that were launched in the 1850s, officially going into transhumanism and post-human model by the 1920s with this advanced breakaway technocracy above a feudal serf system with literal floating fortresses with peacekeepers coming down out of the sky. In fact, I read the book, Things to Come, and then he made it into a film. What was the name of the H.G. Wells film that came out in the 20s?
It was Things to Come.
That's right, Things to Come.
The book was, or the novel Shape of Things to Come.
Exactly, but in that, it's a UN world government bombing the old countries that don't want to be part of it. They end the family. UN peacekeepers come down out of giant, what looks like bat-wing fighters, B-2 bombers. And then I watch this, it's giant bat-wing B-2 bombers. I mean, literally, that's how smart the New World Order is. H.G. Wells wrote a book and made a film that even by today's standards is incredibly high quality. Yeah, there it is, Things to Come, that everybody should watch. It's free online on YouTube.
Yes.
In fact, one of our film contest entrants actually did one paralleling it to Agenda 21. That's why you watch this. This is a repeat of them shaping the mind, preparing everyone. Now, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and say, well, Hunger Games catching fire, just like Bane wants you to have a revolution and says, fire goes up. It's the same thing. They're trying to invoke a false revolution in a dialectic, this is on record, of the pressure they've created. And here's Peter Sutherland. Here's Peter Sutherland in The Guardian last week. Donald Sutherland, I always say Peter Sutherland. Donald Sutherland saying, I want Hunger Games to stir up a revolution. But what revolution does he want? Against capitalism, he says in here, and that he's a left-wing socialist. Now, I like Donald Sutherland. I also like the late Peter Sutherland. But the point is that we're going to come back and I'm going to break this down. But the issue here is that they have created the crisis. This is socialism we're seeing with fascism on top. Now their answer will be more of this. And so they're saying they hope to cause a leftist revolution with this film and others. So that's why it looks like it's anti-establishment, because the establishment is so sophisticated they have to steal our energy. We'll be right back with David Knight. I'm Alex Jones. Alex Jones here. And I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today.
This holiday season, get your family prepared at Emergency Essentials. You know us for our low prices and our high-quality emergency preparedness supplies. Now we're lowering our prices even more for our Black Friday sale. We have doorbusters up to 70% off. Sign up for our email newsletter to be the first to know all the details. Starts Friday, 8 a.m. Mountain Time. Visit Emergency Essentials at BePrepared.com and sign up today. The choice is clear. Be unprepared or BePrepared.com.
That's the sound of a .44 Magnum and Trauma Max, a high-tech hybrid Kevlar bulletproof vest from InfidelBodyArmor.com. Will stop it and most pistol rounds. Trauma Max is a major breakthrough in pistol-rated body armor, and prices start at just $170 per insert. More protection, more stopping power, more mobility, and it weighs less than 5 pounds. Get details at InfidelBodyArmor.com. That's INFIDEL-BodyArmor.com.
You better watch out, you sure better cry. You're at least gonna pout, and I'm telling you why. Privacy is leaving your town.
Is your cell phone being used to build a profile on you? Give the gift of privacy and block unwanted cell phone spying with the Privacy Case from PrivacyCase.com.
They're making their list, they're checking them twice. They're gonna make up who's been naughty or nice.
The problem is real, and so is the solution. Go to PrivacyCase.com because
they see you when you're sleeping. They listen when you're awake. They can tell us all you've been bad when you've been good. So get yourself a privacy case. Oh,
now through December 31st, buy yourself an American-made privacy case and give one for only $79.95 each. Go to PrivacyCase.com today. The Privacy Case, because there is a case for privacy.
Our infrastructure is failing and our government is corrupt. We have some hard times ahead. If there was no way to get medical help, what would you do? How are you going to protect the safety of your family during a crisis when there are no doctors, hospitals, emergency services, or supplies? Supernatural Silver is the answer. Supernatural Silver is a nano-engineered silver unlike any other silver product on the market today. This technology has advanced antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties, and more than 200 independent clinical studies and trials have shown that it's effective in over 500 different uses. Supernatural Silver can be stockpiled and stored for over 10 years, and in a collapse, it could be priceless. It can be used daily to fight off colds, flus, and other pathogens, and yet it's powerful enough to combat some of the most deadly diseases in the world today. Make sure your home is well stocked with Supernatural Silver. To order, go to supernaturalsilver.com. That's supernaturalsilver.com. Use the promo code SILVER2013 for 20% off, and like us on Facebook.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm joined here in studio with Alex Jones. I'm David Knight, and we were just talking about the Hunger Games and how it is either predictive programming for Agenda 21 or it's trying to wake people up. What do you think, Alex?
Well, I don't want to say that the writer of it's a bad person. I don't know. But this is the deepest dream of the New World Order. But with the H.G. Wells film and book, Things to Come, it was put out as positive. This is putting it out as negative, but you see what they're doing is they're saying the answer is rebel against this, bring in socialism and communism, and that's the message is, well, we've got now more than half the economy going to socialism and redistribution, and the ultra-rich are offshore and are exempt, and they're the ones promoting this agenda. Why is that? Because it gives them a controlled economy, what they lust after, what they want. They're the ones creating this Hunger Games, gladiatorial, obsessed with, vapid, shallow trendiness. Literally, that's what this is all about. And this is the programming of the public with the false manufacture of culture. But what really clicked for me was that, the actors in it are great. The starlet, the heroine is just an amazing actress and obviously very beautiful. So it's a very alluring film. But at its base, they say in there, we've got to crush this rebellion. We've got to show people there's no leaders. We've got to show people there's no hope. Kind of like Rollerball, which is that came out in the 70s. It's all about globalism. And it's the same thing, deindustrialize everywhere else. Centralized computer systems you don't have access to, technological elites. Again, they're showing you what they're building, and then here we are 40 years later, they've built it. And then we'll be here 40 years later, and it'll be complete. And it's the end of humanity, the end of freedom. That's the basic goal of it. But looking at this film, David Knight, and understanding it, it's key to come down to the fact that they're trying to capture the revolution against tyranny they know is there and put it into a false socialist movement. But it is the so-called socialist and the so-called Republicans who are pushing the same agenda. So again, this is just taking what's already going on in the real world and standardizing it into fiction to prepare the subconscious mind for it and expanding on that. They have the actual black Homeland Security vehicles that they've distributed over 7,000 of the last few years that all the police departments are getting, but painting them tan for some reason. It's those actual vehicles. This, again, is just total preparation.
It really goes back to a neo-feudalism, as you mentioned in the last segment. And the answer to feudalism is not socialism. The answer to feudalism was 1776.
The answer to it was the Renaissance, the discovery of the small business, the discovery of new ideas, of the printing press, of liberty. Liberty is the answer, not socialism, not stealing from the rich guys in the ivory towers to just pass it out to everybody, but teaching everyone how to fish.
Yes.
But again, they don't...
allowing private property. That was the key thing about feudalism. In feudalism, there were a few landlords that owned everything. And that's what we see happening, whether it's a Trans-Pacific Partnership or whether it's regs that are coming out of Washington. It's this small group of people who want to assert ownership over everything. That's what we see with the copyright laws, CISPA, and other things. They want to assert indefinite, perpetual ownership over all intellectual property and make us all certain.
They want to own the economy and have us be renters in it if we are even allowed to live. And then finally, I want to show people some headlines that tie into the police state. This is just the last 2 days. Outside Austin, high school student watching two girls fight. They admit they just walked up, tasered him in the back. He fell over. He's in a coma. He's probably going to die. And the police say, if he doesn't die, we're going to charge him with interfering with police.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and again, it's all about they're right, they're in charge. Oh, and here's the key. The Dallas police on Wednesday night and then the sheriff's deputies were overheard on Friday when they attacked us said, we need to go after and basically arrest Alex Jones to show him he can't just come down here and demonstrate. They literally believe they'll lose control because they're doing such bad things and the system's doing this that we're being converted consciously to an authoritarian system. Here's another one. Businessman arrested for loitering, carrying legal gun on his own property by the police. That's WSB-TV. I know you're going to cover that in more detail coming up, David. Here's another one. Utah mom says healthy son, 19-year-old, died. He said he was going out of the country, wanted to do the right thing, Fox News said. He did the right thing. He took the flu shot, caused an autoimmune response, and he died. And they're basically admitting the flu shot killed him. The insert says it can kill you, but here's the key, David. If he'd have been a baby and died, they would have arrested her. They know full well the shot kills the baby.
Sudden infant death.
The added goodie is getting to put you in jail. And so this is the system. They're killing us with the vaccines, the GMOs, all of it. The nanny state's not there to take care of us. It's there to prey upon us and to dumb down civilization and to literally wage war on humanity. David Knight, you're going to be hosting the next Wednesday, and then, of course, on Friday and today. You're going to tell folks what's coming up after this. I'm going to turn the helm and the comm over to you. Great job. And folks can watch the Vivian Kubrick powerful interview up on Infowars.com right now.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Alex Jones here. And I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base, nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Rallying patriots worldwide in defense of human liberty. It's Alex Jones.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, filling in for Alex. I'm going to be here the rest of the show, but I'm going to be joined at the top of the hour with Anthony Gucciardi. And we're going to take some of your calls at that time. And later in the show, Jakari Jackson is going to be joining me. We're going to talk about the burgeoning police state, among other issues. But first, I want to talk about Thanksgiving a little bit. You know, at Thanksgiving, we had the pilgrims, which actually literally means travelers or somebody on a journey. They left where they were in England and later in Holland because they didn't like the society. They didn't like what government was doing to their families. They didn't like the oppression, and there was a lot of oppression. Whether it was religious or other issues, oppression is still oppression. And so they packed up and they left. Now, today, we can't really do that. There's not really anywhere left to go. That's why we're here. That's why we're fighting. I think all of us here at the staff at InfoWars know enough that we would be probably bugging out if there was any place to bug out to, but there isn't, and there's no place for you to go either. So we have to do something about this, and we have to take care of our own families. One of the things that these people found when they came to the U.S., they realized that they didn't know how to even grow their own food. They were pretty much dependent on the society that they lived in. And many of us are in that same situation today. It's time to start taking that back. You can go to InfoWarsStore.com and you can get the survival seeds. We have an InfoWars Seed Center. It has the widest selection of non-GMO, non-hybrid heirloom seeds available. And we've got seeds there from My Patriot Supply, Emergency Seed Bank, Heirloom Organics, and ARC. It's something you can do for your family, and you can teach others. You can teach people who are friends and family. You can be basically Squanto to them. You can teach them how to survive. Because, you know, it's not just a matter of leaving society. Our shaky infrastructure could leave you at any moment. You never know when that infrastructure is going to go down, and you could be in the same situation as the Pilgrims who were starving through that first year until they finally figured out how to grow food. Right now, you've got the time. And you want to start with the very best material. That's why you should go to InfoWarsStore.com. It helps to support our operation. That's how we support our operation. We give you products that will help you in your life, and it also funds our operation. It's a win-win situation. Now, last week, as Alex was in Dallas with the crew, and they were protesting First Amendment because that was really the issue. We've been lied to for 50 years about what was going on with the Kennedy assassination. They don't want people talking about the real facts. They don't want people questioning the silly story that they're putting out, the narrative. It's obvious that there's a cover-up. People could see that 50 years ago, and for 50 years, they've got documents that they haven't released. For 50 years, I've been told the documents were burned, destroyed, that they didn't take any notes of the interrogation of Lee Harvey Oswald for 12 hours, that they took no notes whatsoever when they're investigating the assassination of a president. None of this rang true from the very beginning, but it was about more than that. It was about the fact that they were shutting everything down for the 50th anniversary, even to the ridiculous extent of paving over the X that marks the spot. You know, the fellow who found the Zapruder tape, who got it out of the Congressional Committee. Once that surfaced, they were not going to show that to the public. And when he put that out there, he's been there ever since selling. Robert Groden has been selling information about the assassination to people, giving them information on site, fighting the Dallas city officials who are continually moving him away, arresting him. He's got a lawsuit going on now. And he put an X and has continued to put an X as they remove it at the spot where Kennedy was shot. So people can go there and see for themselves whether or not that aspect of the assassination is being correctly reported in the official story. But of course, even that they wanted to get rid of. And they went to such extraordinary lengths. It was absolutely amazing to see that not only did they not just pull up the piece of tape, they said that they were afraid people would trip over a piece of tape on the ground. So they didn't just pull it up. What they did was they continually paved over that section of road. They didn't just pave over it once. They were working on it the entire time of the commemoration to basically keep people off of it and to keep him and others, to keep Groden and others from going down there and putting the X back on. It was an amazing piece of censorship. And then it was followed up, as we were in overdrive, it was followed up with the police, unprovoked and without warning, coming in and attacking Alex Jones, the protesters that were with him, the staff that were with him, after they'd been led into the area by the police, standing there calmly waiting to get access a little bit farther in. Then they were attacked by all of these goons, essentially from the federal police. We can see them coming out of the Homeland Security trailer and just walk up and start punching and shoving people. And as I was driving home, after I'd just seen this, I hear on the radio for the first time this story about this student down in Bastrop, where the police just walk up and without warning, according to the family's lawyer, that's what the family is alleging, and that's what a lot of the students are alleging who walked out. They had a walkout there at the high school in Bastrop, which is just a little bit south here of Austin. And the other students walked out in disgust and in anger that this would happen to another student there. There was a fight. He was standing around. He didn't get out of the way as quickly as the police wanted him to get out of the way, so they just tasered him. He fell, lost consciousness, as this often happens, just like with the knockout game. If you are immediately clocked or lose consciousness with a knockout game, or you're hit with a taser, you hit the concrete floor. Many people have been seriously injured. At least one person has died from the knockout game, and this is happening all the time with tasers. It's essentially the same thing. It's the police playing the knockout game. And what the police said, this is amazing. They haven't talked much because, of course, this is an open investigation. But what they said was that he looked as though he were ready to fight. See, if you even give them the wrong look, they feel justified to taser you. And what's making this worse, we see this happening all the time throughout the country. Just a little bit farther south in San Antonio, we now see that an officer has been arrested while he was on duty. He raped a young woman on the squad car. He's 40 years old. I think the lady was 19. And yes, a 19-year-old woman just raped her on duty as a police officer, pulls her over and rapes her. And then this story, this is one that broke on Ben Swan's site. Cops spray a woman's vagina with mace in order to punish her. In order to punish her. Again, this is New Mexico. We've seen a lot of stuff coming out of New Mexico lately that's absolutely amazing. My wife looked at this story and said, we are never going through that state. People in New Mexico need to try to get a hold of their police departments and control them. But, you know, it's not just New Mexico. I wish it was just New Mexico. This is happening everywhere. Those first two stories I just talked about, those are right here in Texas. There is no accountability to the police. It doesn't matter what they do. There's no accountability to them. Between the unions and between this club that they've got going, nobody is ever held to account for these crimes. And as long as that happens, these things are going to continue to multiply. Now, in this particular instance, she was in a jail, and they were taking her to a detention center, and the staff did this to, quote-unquote, punish her. They said it's tantamount to torture. This is the ACLU talking about it. It's tantamount to torture. It's just maliciousness. The wanton disregard, the wanton maliciousness that the corrections officer demonstrated. This is the kind of chemical that is intended to be sprayed on other parts of the body to cause pain, but to spray it on the very most sensitive part of a person's body only doubles the pain. It probably is even more than doubling the pain. It's absolutely amazing, and it's exactly, you know, Alex was just in here talking about the Hunger Games, and you see there the arrogance. That was the thing that was bothering me about the live broadcast from Dallas, even before they came out punching. And that was to see how the police were so incredibly arrogant with anybody that wanted to talk to them. Ask them a decent question. Ask them a question about where something is. Give me directions. Or even after the event, when Alex asked them, where do I file a charge? I've just been assaulted by the sheriff's deputies. And they were incredibly arrogant. In most cases, they wouldn't even make eye contact with people who were talking to them. And it isn't just the fact that they were there as part of a demonstration. I've seen that over and over again. And as we were talking about last Thursday, when Jakari Jackson and I went down to the Austin airport to try to talk to the TSA, they stonewall us. They tell us, we're not going to talk to you. You have to submit questions. Of course, when we submit questions, they don't respond to us. When they come up and talk to us, they say, we're not going to talk on the air. And these are the public information officers. That's what their job is. Their job is to inform the public. Their job is to talk to the press. They are arrogant and contemptuous. And it's when you see these types of things happening, that they've done to these women, that they've done to these children, it's not surprising to see them do it to people who are protesting for the First Amendment. I've got to say that when we look at this First Amendment protest in Dallas, and we look at the Second Amendment protest that we went to down in San Antonio, the police were not afraid to come after a lot of people, even though we had a lot of cameras there. And even though we were broadcasting live, maybe they didn't know that we were broadcasting live. I would think that they would. We'd been saying that we were doing that. And at the time that they did that, we had 1 million people watching just on the YouTube, on the Ustream channel. It actually crashed Ustream. Now, if you go back and look at those videos, it's kind of interesting because Ustream doesn't count the number of people that were watching it live. They only count the number of videos, number of views of people that are watching the archive version, but they could see it on the screen. They snapshotted the screen. We had 1 million people just on that stream, not counting people who are listening to our broadcast or listening on the radio, because we were in overdrive at that time. Some of the radio stations that are listening to us right now were not on there at that time. Yes, Alex.
But we will never be mainstream. If we had 1 billion listeners, we're not important.
That's right. That's right.
People that the government certifies, they are important.
That's right. That's right. And it's interesting to see how, that was Alex hopping in here and making his comment. It's interesting to see that the mainstream media essentially ignored it except to attack us as conspiracy theorists. And remember that that was a term that was created by the CIA in the wake of the Kennedy assassination. And that was used as a deliberate method to make people, to ridicule people, to turn it into an ad hominem attack, to ignore what's actually happened. And we've got a video here that I want to play for you. This is a special report we had on the nightly news. And that's something, if you're not supporting the nightly news, you really need to consider that. It's coming up Christmas time. It's a great gift for people. You can see every one of the documentaries that Alex and crew have made. And if you saw that clip at the beginning that Alex put together with Darren McBreen and others, that was an amazing piece of work. And Alex has been working on this next documentary. It's going to be coming out in the spring. We have a wealth of information there. They can watch our documentaries, all of them for free, as well as get a nightly news broadcast. So that's something that, just a little plug there, you can share that at Christmas time. It's a great gift for people. But let's go to this report that I did for the nightly news about government conspiracies and cover-ups. Well, 3 years after an MI6 codebreaker's body was found padlocked in a bag in an empty bathtub in an MI6 safe house, the London Metropolitan Police have ruled that it was an accident.
Allow me to congratulate you on a brilliant bit of deduction.
That's right. Move along. There's nothing to see here. But there is plenty to see here about how governments work. His body was found inside a zipped and padlocked bag in a bathtub. No palm prints were on the side of the bathtub. No traces of his DNA on the padlock outside of the bag. His cell phone was wiped clean that day. And his employer, MI6, that's British intelligence, didn't report him missing for 8 days, despite the fact that his body was in one of their safe houses just blocks away from their headquarters. And just last year, the coroner concluded that he probably was killed by another person. Coroner Fiona Wilcox said that it was, quote, a legitimate line of inquiry that other spies were involved in the death of Gareth Williams, 31, a member of the UK's Secret Intelligence Service, SIS, also known as MI6. But Metropolitan Police said he probably died accidentally on his own, rejecting conspiracy theories. His family said, if this wasn't the SIS and it was the Cray twins or someone else, you would be investigating. You would have gone into far more detail. And there were some more details thrown in. He had $30,000 worth of unworn women's clothing, a bright red wig, and some suspicious sexual things there. But the coroner's investigation ruled that he was not gay, not a transvestite. Those things, I believe, were simply red herrings to distract people from what the real question is, and that is, how could he have gotten padlocked into the bag? The Press Association reported that a former parachute regiment reservist who specializes in rescuing people from confined spaces was unable to lock himself inside an identical bag. No palm prints were on the side of the bathtub, no traces of his DNA on the padlock outside of the bag. He said, I couldn't say it's impossible, but I think even Houdini would have struggled with this one. This is something we've seen not just in the UK, but frequently in the United States, that people who have sensitive information about government secrets or about the people who run the government somehow just mysteriously die or commit suicide, even though they didn't have any history of being suicidal, and even though the explanations for their deaths make absolutely no sense. Take the case of Gary Webb, investigative reporter who supposedly committed suicide by shooting himself in the head twice. It was merely coincidental that he had exposed CIA and Reagan administration using the crack cocaine drug trade to finance Nicaraguan Contras. Or take Deborah Jean Palfrey, the D.C. madam who had perhaps incriminating information on very powerful men in Washington. She said this on the Alex Jones Show in 2008, shortly before she was suicided.
I have no intention of letting anyone buy me off or make any kind of a deal with me.
And you're not planning to commit suicide?
And I'm not planning to commit suicide either.
But you want to put it on record that you're not planning to commit suicide?
No, I'm not planning to commit suicide. I'm planning to go into court on April 7th if indeed we do have the trial, and I plan on defending myself vigorously, and I plan on exposing the government in ways that, I do not think they want me to expose them. I want them to explain to me in open court why they came after me.
Or take Aaron Schwartz, a feisty internet freedom activist who led the defeat of CISPA.
We did it. We won. And then we started rubbing it in.
We're told that he hung himself also in a fit of depression, concerned about the possibility of a long jail term sentence. He asked his fiancée to marry him just 2 months before his death, 2 months after federal prosecutors came after him with ridiculously trumped-up charges for downloading files from MIT which neither the repository nor local law enforcement wanted to prosecute. And the prosecutor, Carmen Ortiz's husband, had tweeted that he had refused a plea bargain for just a 3-month sentence. Or look at the improbable details in Michael Hastings' death in a car explosion. He was being pursued by the NSA and the FBI for a story that he was writing and had warned colleagues that they would be questioned. And then there's the JFK assassination, where the lies are even more obvious after 50 years. But of course, if you question any of these improbable stories, you're labeled a conspiracy theorist and told to shut up. For InfoWars Nightly News, I'm David Knight. And he said, of course, there's also the person in Arkansas who was found with his arms and legs sawed off, and they ruled that was a suicide as well. You know, there's so many of these, we don't have time to do them all in one report. You could do an entire documentary on government suicides. But it's interesting to see how they followed up on this spy in a bag story. They used the media. They had the media come in and film a woman who was a yoga instructor, about 4 inches shorter, quite a bit lighter, and she was able to get herself in that bag and lock it. But she still wasn't able to do it without getting her fingerprints and DNA on the outside, and that's the way they fake these things. We've seen this over and over again. If you want to know why this is going on, and you ask questions, you want to investigate, you're a conspiracy theorist. We're going to be right back. We're going to have some analysis, not theories.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Time and time again.
You need to come here and help us. We need assistance, please.
Those we should be able to depend on let us down.
Federal and state and local officials saying help is on the way, while the folks here in Bell Harbor say show me.
Don't depend on the government to save you. Take action now so that you're prepared for the next disaster with MyPatriotSupply.com. Get the best prices on storable food, non-GMO seeds, water filtration devices, home canning equipment, survival and self-reliance books, and more at MyPatriotSupply.com. Call 866-229-0927.
We are hurting down here, and we need help immediately.
Before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare. MyPatriotSupply.com. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Uncover a simple privacy loophole that can stop the NSA spying thugs in their tracks at privacylockdown.com. The NSA has already shut down hundreds of sites, and to truth be told, they could shut down this operation at any time. See, the privacy loophole I'm about to show you allows you to make all your sensitive information disappear in the next 30 days or less. Go to privacylockdown.com now to take your life off the grid and see the loophole in the NSA and FBI spying machine before they close the loophole forever. Go to privacylockdown.com.
This holiday season, why not give your loved ones the best in highway protection? Video-Cam.com is offering 2 HD DVR dash cams, 2 8GB SD cards with free shipping for $150. Also, Video-Cam.com is taking 20% off their entire stock of dash cams and SD cards with free shipping. So go to Video-Cam.com or call 1-855-855-2022. Have a safe and happy holiday season, and remember, always have a witness.
run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex. Alex is here. He's working on the documentary. He just popped in and said maybe they could get that lady that got in the bag where they had the spy in the bag. We just had the report last segment of a spy who they found locked in a bag, padlocked from the outside, no fingerprints, no DNA on the outside, and Scotland Yard brilliantly ruled that it was an accidental death. Even after a year ago, the coroner came out and said the obvious, that he had been murdered and put there by somebody else. And Alex had mentioned this Arkansas about the guy who was found with his arms and legs sawn off, and the police ruled that that was a suicide. Maybe they could try to get that yoga instructor to duplicate that trick. I don't know. I don't think that's possible. But getting on to something serious here. You know, we were talking about, Alex came in at the beginning of the program, was talking about the Hunger Games and how that is the kind of economic collapse and then feudalism that follows, where everything is owned by just a few people and everyone is in such desperate straits to eat, to survive. That's already started in Greece. That's already started where they've put the Goldman Sachs bankers in charge of the government there. And we have this story here that is on InfoWars. It's actually originally an RT story. And they're talking about the World Health Organization going in and reporting that since 2008, they've had this massive rise in HIV rates. And what they said is that half of these new HIV infections are self-inflicted. Well, why would people give themselves AIDS? The World Health Organization says this is to enable people to receive benefits of 700 euros per month and faster admission into drug substitution programs. If you look at the article on InfoWars, there's this picture that a photographer took of this old man humped over and walking along. He just came out of a €1 store. It's kind of like a dollar store over here in the U.S. And this fellow he wrote about, he took his picture and put it as it's an epic picture. It looks like something out of the Great Depression. And it looks like something that we may be facing here in this country as well. In Greece, the photographer wrote this accompanying information. He said, unemployment is 26%, and by the end of the year, it'll reach 34% of the active population. And he said, this is the kind of unemployment that is only noted in countries that have typically been facing long-term wars. Well, see, it's unusual, but this is a long-term war. As Alex is pointing out, this has been their plan for a very long time. When he interviewed Professor Woods, and we're going to have that in a rebroadcast on Thursday, and they were talking about neo-feudalism. And he mentioned that this was something that they, even as far back, of course, Alex mentions it goes back to the middle of the 1800s, but even in the 1930s, they were talking about changing the credits from money-based system to an energy-based system. And if you notice, that's what they're trying, on the 100th anniversary of the Federal Reserve, if you look at what these carbon credits are, in my opinion, what that is essentially the Federal Reserve and this private corporation being able to charge interest to anybody that has, as money is created, this private cartel gets to charge the entire United States population interest for every dollar that they print. And they, of course, decide how many dollars they're going to print. In the same way, if we allow these private carbon credits that Al Gore and his partner Blood and Gore, and others are trying to set up, if we allow them to do that, if we allow them to change everything over to this energy system that they're trying to do, they will measure everything that we do. It's going to be much more lucrative for them. It'll be global. It's another way of establishing, in my opinion, a global Federal Reserve. And that's exactly what they were planning in the 1930s. 40 years before they started talking about global cooling and then about global warming. This predated the environmentalist movement for a long time. This is a long-term war. We're going to be right back.
This is GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the life straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, filling in for Alex. I'm going to be joined in the next segment with Anthony Gucciardi. He's going to come in here. We're going to talk about political correctness. You know, we talked about how they try to demonize and do ad hominem attacks on people, calling them conspiracy theorists. And that's a technique that started after the Kennedy assassination. It was a way to shut down people who were trying to investigate what really happened. The government did everything it could to cover it up. They offered us implausible explanations, and we have seen that happen over and over and over again for the last 50 years. They set the pattern up for the Kennedy assassination, and we've seen that happening over and over again. Of course, false flags and government conspiracies and cover-ups predate the Kennedy assassination. Obviously, we've seen this in cultures throughout history. We've seen it with the Reichstag fire in Germany. But it's a very carefully planned and orchestrated partnership with the media. Operation Mockingbird. You see them talking about people as conspiracy theorists. As long as they start throwing that term at people, they don't really have to explain away what we're talking about. They just basically attack us as conspiracy theorists. And that's what we see happening in Dallas. That's what the Dallas Morning News did to the demonstrators, to Alex Jones there. They simply talked about how there were some people there, and there's one fellow in a 1776 costume, another guy who was holding a puppet. And then they just talk about Alex Jones, and he's this conspiracy theorist, never talking about the fact that there was censorship going on, never talking about the shutting down of the First Amendment. And this is a newspaper. But that's okay, Dallas Morning News. We will fight for the First Amendment. We'll fight for your right to say what you want to until you wake up, until you get off of the government payroll, until you start trying to not suck up to people for access, until you want to honestly report the news. You know, the guy who was there with a puppet, maybe he was having a good time. Maybe he was kind of making a point about puppet media. Who knows? But we're going to be talking to Anthony Gucciardi in the next segment. We've got a lot of news here. You know, it just came out yesterday. They said that the troops are going to be in Afghanistan for another 10 years. Well, if you go back and you look to the Independent, back in 2006, you had a British general saying at that time, that was 2006, troops will be in Afghanistan for the next 20 years, is what he said. And it was kind of interesting. It was Brigadier Butler, and he said that international presence may be required in Afghanistan for the next 20 years. This was back in 2006. And then in the same article from the Independent, it's very interesting because they talked about how opium cultivation was rising at that time 59% per year, according to the UN figures, an all-time record crop. And they point out that 90% of the heroin on British streets was coming from Afghanistan. 90% of the heroin worldwide is coming from Afghanistan. It was down to only 10% on the Taliban. Once we went in and established it, it jumped to 90% of the world supply. And, of course, they say that it's in this article that it is #1 priority. This is back in 2006. 7 years ago. They said, you can say that Afghanistan is pretty much out of control, said someone with the UN drug program. He said, Afghanistan is basically supplying the world's opium. And there's also evidence that the country is increasingly hooked on its own opium, and they're going to have NATO troops and their Afghan allies attack heroin labs. Well, you know what? That didn't happen. As we saw with Geraldo Rivera, what the U.S. and NATO troops did was they actually helped them. They actually transported the drugs for them. They actually helped them in the poppy feeds. That's why they're there. It's not just for this quote-unquote war on terrorism, which is going to last forever. It's not going to be 20 years. It'll never end. We're going to have to end it. We're going to have to end it by returning the government to constitutional checks and balances. We're going to have to end it by waking up. But it's not going to end. They went there for the heroin. It funds their special secretive ops, and it's also one of the places on Earth that has the highest concentration of lithium. Now, lithium is not used just to control people psychologically, but it's a major component of batteries. And so we've got a lot of resources there that the New World Order, the neo-colonialists, the neo-feudalists want to have. It provides funding for their black operations. We're going to be there for a long time, but we're going to be right back with Anthony Gucciardi. We're going to be talking about political correctness, so stay tuned.
Why does the United States spend the largest percentage of GDP in the world on healthcare? Why do we have the highest cancer rates on the planet, the highest rates of diabetes, autism, and every other major disease? It all comes down to one thing. We are what we eat. Our food is devoid of nutrition and processed with poisons and additives. Our water is filled with toxic poisons and big pharma runoff. All of this has been engineered by design. We can turn the tide against the eugenicist by giving ourselves the nutrients our body desperately needs. To learn more, visit InfoWarsHealth.com. The site is literally packed with audio and video featuring top health professionals who don't bow down to big pharma. The fight against the New World Order starts with you, and you can't stand against the machine if you're sick, tired, and obese. When you visit InfoWarsHealth.com, be sure and check out the catalog with nearly 400 life-changing products, and get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
What I tell people is that you do have time. We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states, most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy. This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. Available only at InfoWarsShop.com or by calling 888-253-3139. In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex, and I'm joined here live in studio with Anthony Gucciardi of Story Leak. And we're going to talk to him about political correctness, about mind control, and about the way the government and the media carefully shape the agenda. Now I want you to think back. It's only been about 2 years ago, the lead up to the presidential election. And do you remember what a stink it caused when some conservative candidates talked about the death panels in Obamacare? Everybody just railed about them. But listen to this revelation, to this confession from somebody who represents the left's position on this. Mark Halperin.
So you believe that there will be rationing, aka death panels?
It's built into the plan. It's not like a guess or like a judgment. That's going to be part of how costs are controlled.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but I'll say something else about that issue, which is we do need to do some of that in this country because we can't afford to spend so much on end-of-life care. A very high percentage of our health care spending is for a very small number of people at the last stages of their life. I'm not saying the system shouldn't allow that, but there's too much cost there. Judgments have to be made. We have to decide.
Made by who, Mark? Mark, made by who? The government?
By individuals.
But it's not going to be made by individuals. If you say it's included in the health care...
It's not now. It's not now for many people who have insurance. Their insurance companies make those decisions.
But it's very rare that they... In other words, if someone needs a bypass...
That's good. That's Steve Malzberg, Newsmax, interviewed Mark Halperin. And it's Mark Halperin who immediately takes the jump, Anthony. You know, first of all, for years, death panels, that was a laughable thing. You know, you could demonize somebody just like calling him a conspiracy theorist to say that hey, he's talking about death panels. But they very quickly go, oh, yeah, there's death panels in it, and it's a good thing. See how quickly they pivoted? So for years, they say doesn't exist, and we see this over and over and over again in so many different areas. For years, it doesn't exist. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist. If you think it does, you don't understand what's going on. And they demonize people for that, and then all of a sudden they say, no, you're right, but it's a good thing now that we're doing this.
No, that's exactly right. And I've come to the conclusion now, we're going to get into this specifically, why this society is so tightly controlled. Why Julius Caesar, Hitler, Stalin, and Mao all failed, but achieved so much in a short period of time, and why this society is actually going along with what the elite are saying, even though it's so blatantly in our face. And it was about 2 days ago, I was doing an interview with a major network on the subject of antidepressants and psychotropic drugs. And it was pre-recorded. We were talking, you know, more than 20% of kids now are diagnosed with ADHD. They're on the pharmaceutical drugs that admittedly from the 1980s, Eli Lilly covered it all up, admittedly cause more depression, more suicide, more aggressive behavior. And the FDA just lets them slide on it all. But we were talking specifically about that, and about 2/3 the way into the pre-recorded interview, I said, you know what? Everything else I said before this doesn't matter. Here's the key. And it was actually a realization by myself as well. Something I'm going to call a neo-conquest of the society. What's going on now is, you know, Julius Caesar, more so Hitler, had these zealots behind him, these legions of believers that truly believed what he was doing. They were so deluded and buying into the propaganda that they stood behind him and they're willing to die for him in war. They were willing to give up their children to the Hitler Youth. Or Stalin, even the idea of communism, they bought into this thing that was bigger than themselves because it was such a polarizing thing. But the issue with that is at the same time, since it's so polarizing, Hitler also had detractors. He had, you know, enemies within his own organization, his own cult organization. The difference now, this is neo-conquest. This is a societal takeover that relies heavily on lethargy and apathy.
Yes.
This is never before seen. Julius Caesar was intelligent enough to try this at one point, but they didn't have the technology at the time. You know, the infamous bread and circus, that's nothing. Now we have portals of the Colosseum that stream directly into your living room.
Yes.
You know, that was a live event that would happen from time to time. They would
or the virtual world that they're working on. I mean, look at how going by leaps and bounds, and they're talking about now creating a virtual world with so many sensory feedbacks that you don't ever want to leave.
They have live sex bots now in Japan. I just saw this video that will perform any action you want. You put on, and it's called an Oculus Rift. It's a 3D world where you envision these cartoon women inside of it. They have anything you want. But this has never been successfully done. You know, Hitler was a hard takeover. Hitler had the cult organization. Stalin had the cult organization. But look at Stalin. Even the high-level people in his cabinet wanted to kill him.
Yes.
He was super paranoid, yes, but they did actually want to kill him at the same time because guess what? If you kill Stalin, you take the power. If you kill Hitler, you take the power. But here's the difference. In the United States of America, it's all corrupt. There's no power to be taken. It is so bad that the ultimate thing they're doing is admitting everything now because they're saying, yes, we're all catering to the moderates, they say. Every election, what do they talk about all day long? The moderates. This idea of not too hot, not too cold. Every single thing they're doing now is, yes, they have some fans of Obama, some fervent fans of Obama, but bottom line is it's almost against the politically correct laws to speak out and care about things. That's why Alex is having such success, because people say, oh my God, he's actually energized about these things. You know, all of us are actually energized about these things. The whole system is to shut us down and suppress our ability to feel things and care about things.
Absolutely.
Ruled by apathy.
And I think a key part of it is this article you mentioned too. The CDC says that more than 20% of 14-year-old boys are diagnosed with ADHD. That's on InfoWars right now. That's something we've seen for quite a long time. We've homeschooled our children, started, 15 years ago. And at the time, we heard this exact same thing, and that it was skewed towards males because they don't naturally want to go sit in a classroom. That's something that works out really well for females. But I know when we were homeschooling our sons, if we would make them sit absolutely still and listen to something that we were presenting to them or assignment that they were doing, they wouldn't retain anything. But if we let them kind of dance around and that you thought that they weren't learning anything, they would retain everything. So we kind of learned that early. But this is deliberate. Charlotte Iserby and others have talked about the deliberate dumbing down of America. We sell that book here at InfoWars. This is something that has been a key element of this. Has not just been, we're seeing it in its final stages now with the electronics that are coming online in the game world, the virtual worlds that they're putting people in. But they've been trying to dumb people down deliberately. The schools have been a center of social engineering from their inception. If you go back and you look at what Dewey and Mann and others talked about, that was their purpose. People say, why can't Johnny read? That was not the intention of the schools. That's what they told the parents. But their real agenda was one of basically getting people to be subservient to the state, to understand that it's the mother and father, that it's the authority on everything.
Can you imagine if you told Stalin back in the day that, yes, we have a drug. Anyone that stands out in the classroom and questions the officials, the teachers, and everything like that, that not only will sedate them and take away their ability to think intellectually, but we actually have profit-driven incentives for the teachers and the doctors to go ahead and do it.
Yes.
The teachers see, hey, this kid's annoying me. You know, he's messing with our official story. Send him over to the doctor. This happened to me when I was younger, by the way. I was asking questions and talking too much to my friends, and they sent me to my doctor, and he gave me a sheet. And there was, I believe, 8 or 10 questions. The number one question was, who is your hero? And I wrote some rock musician that I liked at the time. And he just looked at that, and he was like, yeah, you have ADD. But
well, you know what? Most business owners and self-starters and entrepreneurs do have ADD. That's why they work well. Do you think they would have given Ritalin to Alex Jones? I mean, they would have given it to him. They would have tried to give it to you. Anybody that wants to be a self-starter, they would give it.
Quote unquote ADD, you know, is just a label given to people that are questioning things.
Yes.
And the whole system, though, is that this wouldn't work if there wasn't a profit-driven center to it all. A central system where the doctors are given kickbacks by the drug companies, you know, massive hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can look up your doctors online and find how much money they've gotten. My Harvard doctor was given, I think, $250,000 over the course of his, you know, career speaking at these big pharma events and everything like that. But anyway, back in the day when I went to that guy, it's this whole system now where if someone asks a question, they're sent out of the classroom, sent to the doctor, drugged up, and then they're not an issue anymore. It's the dream of Stalin, Hitler, and Mao. And we've finally come here, and that's why apathy is the key to all of this, how they control us. If we're not apathetic, we get out and actually care about things, that's how they, you know, will lose. That's also ties into this political correct agenda that we're going to get into specifically, and how the political correct agenda is using, you know, major suppression on an intellectual level to make sure that we only bow down to the things that the system deems appropriate. And that's why, for example, we're going to get into this waitress who said she was persecuted because, you know, she was homosexual and they didn't leave her a tip and they wrote all these nasty things. It turns out that's completely false. The people that went there actually have the receipt, and they voted against Christie because he didn't support gay marriage.
Oh.
I mean, this is how this is working now.
Yeah.
And the system was just all over that, saying, yeah, it's those crazy right-wing extremists that do that kind of stuff. But then it's like, if a normal waiter or waitress didn't get a tip, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
This is all feeding into this weird system where little things matter and the big things don't matter. And if you care about the big things, then you're insane.
Well, they have a carefully constructed narrative, an agenda that they want to put out, and they create a narrative, and whether or not it's real or whether or not it's phony, in most cases they're making this up. That's what we see over and over again when we look at these quote-unquote conspiracies. We look at what's actually being told to us by the government. We look at it and say, you know, this doesn't make any sense. They've also got an agenda here, just like the spy in the bag, right? You know, he works for MI6, and they have some connections to him, and there's a lot of issues there where they're not looking to see where this guy is. He doesn't report for a week.
Get in that bag,
right?
Padlock himself. I mean,
so you have to look at this, and you have to say, maybe they've got a motive. I mean, if you were doing an honest murder investigation, you would look at people that were close by, you would look at people who had a motive, and you would honestly look at the facts. And the government never does that. And they do that with the social issues as well. Just like this case you just mentioned. They've got a narrative, they want to put it out there. As soon as they see something that fits that template, they will run with it. They'll push it. They won't investigate whether or not that's true or not.
Exactly. And that's, you know, speaking to some of the largest entrepreneurs in the website field, they say the best website you can possibly get is user-generated content. You give them the template, and they make you the money. The government is doing that on a large scale. They're making us push their agenda for them, and we can choose to opt out of that.
That's right. Well, we're going to be right back after the break with Anthony Gucciardi, and we're going to be taking some of your calls about some of these very issues. If you want to talk to us about things that you've seen about the police state happening in your area, things about how the government is creating this narrative, this phony agenda, and being joined by the press, call us. We'll be right back.
What looks good under your Christmas tree and tastes even better? Big Berkey water filters. Yes, the gift of clean water. A gift that provides a great foundation for achieving good health in the lives of your loved ones. A Big Berkey water filter gives them protection from bacteria, heavy metals, chlorine, fluoride, pesticides and herbicides, VOCs and more. And best of all, a Big Berkey water filter is a gift that lasts for many years with no additional investment. And that saves time and money in filter replacements that other water filters require and are even powerful enough to purify treated, untreated, or even stagnant pond water. As always, all orders over $50 are shipped free, and GCN listeners get 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Order online at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com, spelled Big, B-E-R-K-E-Y, waterfilters.com, or call 877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-B-E-R-K-E-Y. Gift well this Christmas. Give a Big Berkey water filter.
In the U.S., 1 in every 50 homes will have a break-in this year. Burglars call it smash and grab. Police call it robbery. We call it avoidable. We are Fake TV, a simple electronic device that can fool even professional burglars. Fake TV easily plugs into any outlet and simulates the changing colors of a television. To a burglar, it looks like someone must be home watching TV, so they'll likely move on to an easier target. At only $29.95, Fake TV costs less than a month of most alarm monitoring plans and comes with free shipping. Order your Fake TV by calling 877-5-FAKE-TV or go to faketv.com. That's 877-532-5388 or faketv.com. Fake TV, the burglar deterrent.
This holiday season, get your family prepared at Emergency Essentials. You know us for our low prices and our high-quality emergency preparedness supplies. Now we're lowering our prices even more for our Black Friday sale. We have doorbusters up to 70% off. Sign up for our email newsletter to be the first to know all the details. Starts Friday, 8 a.m. Mountain Time. Visit Emergency Essentials at BePrepared.com and sign up today. The choice is clear. Be unprepared or BePrepared.com.
Virtually anyone can hack your cell phone and track your calls, your texts, your emails, your every movement, but only if they can detect a signal. Stay one step ahead of hackers and Big Brother with a Block-It Pocket, a custom-made pocket infused with pure silver that creates a complete Faraday enclosure for your cell phone. For free shipping to the lower 48, visit blockitpocket.com or call 888-315-9618. blockitpocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
You better watch out, you sure better cry. You're at least gonna pout, and I'm telling you why. Privacy is leaving your town.
Is your cell phone being used to build a profile on you? Give the gift of privacy and block unwanted cell phone spying with the Privacy Case from PrivacyCase.com.
They're making their list, they're checking them twice. They're gonna make up who's been naughty or nice.
The problem is real, and so is the solution. Go to PrivacyCase.com because
they see you when you're sleeping. They
December 31st, buy yourself an American-made privacy case and give one for only $79.95 each. Go to privacykase.com today. The Privacy Case, because there is a case for privacy.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight here in Austin, and I'm joined in studio with Anthony Gucciardi of StoryLeak. And Anthony, we were just talking about this crazy situation where more than 20% of 14-year-old boys are diagnosed with ADHD. That's not the crazy part. The crazy part is how they're medicating them with Ritalin, which is really related to cocaine in terms of the way that it acts. Basically creating a dependency of drugs and dumbing them down. That's one level of it, but you were pointing out a level that was completely, that was above it in terms of what this is all about and ultimately, right?
Exactly. Well, we could get into the fact that legal drugs kill more than cocaine and heroin combined. More people are on painkillers than those drugs. Statistically, it's more dangerous to be on the legal drugs than most of the illegal drugs. And you'll find that the doctors are handing them out like candy, and sometimes they know, sometimes they don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
But yes, overall, as I was saying before, the whole entire system of control is to put us on these drugs, the ones that step out of line. Because, you know, let's say 30% of people have unwavering, you know, they will never question the government. Then let's say 10% of the population is this really powerful, intellectual, you know, supernova that can really change the world. Those people are the #1 enemies of the elite and the New World Order at whole.
You want to get the kids that have got the most energy, the go-getters, the self-starters, the people who would be the entrepreneurs in the future. You want to get them on a pacifying drug and get them hooked to it.
And as I said, I've been on them before. I know what it feels like, literally walking around like a zombie. And I told my mother at the time, I said, I can't take these. And she said, well, the doctor says it's good for you, you know, because the doctor said he read my questions and answers for the 8 questions, are you crazy or whatever, in ADD. And the teachers were flattered because, you know, I would sit there and I felt like I was ready to go to bed. I felt like I had a bad cold. I just felt terrible, like a total mind fog. Couldn't even put sentences together at the time.
That's right.
And I started not taking them and just hiding them around the house and stuff because I didn't want to take them. And years later, you know, my mom said, oh, my God, thank God you didn't take those pills. I've seen what it's done to kids now. They're giving them to, like, 4-year-olds now.
Well, you have to, at some point, it's a difficult transition, but people have to learn how to live in the real world. The best you could say about the drugs would be that they're going to take this transition, this learning process, and kick it down the road. And at some point, you're either going to stay on drugs your entire life to make you pacified, or you're going to...
No, they've known since the 80s, though, that it's fueling suicides and depression. They know it's horrible.
That's right.
I'm
talking more to the parents now here. I'm saying, you know,
I get it.
Parents, you need to understand that your children, if they've got a personality issue, don't treat it with medication. Treat it with training. Or use this time while they still are children to try to learn how to live in society and get along with other people.
Or maybe look at the fact that in 2005, BBC, Harvard psychiatrists came out and said the human population are being treated like guinea pigs, human guinea pigs, by taking Prozac, because Eli Lilly knew since the 1980s. They covered up. He was part of it. He knew all about it. They cherry-picked the data, said it was safe. It actually made every single thing it was supposed to treat worse. And that's across the board, every single one of them. You know, all the major shooters are on them. The kids don't need this. You know, they need some kind of help if they actually have a serious mental illness. But ADD, oftentimes, it's just not even a real thing. You know, people are just coming out and saying, hey, you know, I don't believe that piece of history, you know, teacher, whatever. And there's like, you have ADD. It's all a complete scam to get rid of that 10% of the people that will actually dominate and destroy the system.
People need to do their own homework. They need to question the authority of the doctor, of the pharmaceutical company. They need to look at it, and the information is there now online. You can see what these things do. You can see the articles that people have written. You can understand what it is. Make the determination yourself. It's not, you know, don't just read what's on the label, but also read what the history of this is.
You want to reclaim your health naturally?
Yes.
You know, as the creator of the 3rd largest natural health website in the world, I've gotten thousands of emails from people that were on these things or putting their kids on these. They said, oh, my God, you know, it could be any herb or anything. I've been taking, you know, whatever. I've been cleansing my body. I've been using this iodine. Oh, my God, I can't believe the difference. All of those are real because they were on these pain-inducing, this sleep-inducing, you know, concoction by Eli Lilly or whoever. And they were just in this fog, and they didn't realize that they didn't even have to feel like that anymore because they were on it for so many years. There's people who have been taking those for 10 years. They can't imagine life without it. And those are the people, unfortunately, that go ahead and they don't even watch the news. They don't care about anything. They hear about the NSA spying on them, and they say, whatever. And it's the same thing. They're putting the drugs, and the drugs are already in the water supply. They're putting biopharmaceutical crops now, planting those.
Yes.
All complete assault on the mind.
It's to the extent that you can't, it's very difficult for you to opt out of it. You have to educate yourself, and you have to be very deliberate to get out of this medication system because it's so pervasive. It finds its way into the water supply. So you have to get exactly. You've got to get something like a ProPure filter or something to get the glyphosates out. We're going to be right back, and we're going to take some of your calls. We've got calls have already lined up, but we've got the toll-free number is 800-259-9231. If you want to talk about this, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
We're on the march. The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Alex Jones here, and I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filters today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Suddenly a man starts acting strangely. He starts saying, "I'm God, I'm in charge." LAX police arrest that man, and he turns out to be a TSA agent. "I am God, I'm in charge, I'm in charge."
I have power, I have power, I have power.
We gotta take the power back.
You want to stop tyranny? Well, so does he. Live from the InfoWars.com studios, it's Alex Jones.
We gotta take the power back.
pulled the pants down. They went down around my ankles.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex, and I'm joined here in studio with Anthony Gucciardi of Story Leak. And we were just talking about more than 20% of the people who are 14-year-old boys, according to the CDC, have been diagnosed with ADHD, and of course are being heavily medicated with Ritalin. And this is, as Anthony pointed out in the last segment, this is like taking the most energetic, the most focused, the most people who are going to be the entrepreneurs in the next generation. This is taking them and essentially taking the edge off of these kids, kind of dumbing them down, pacifying them, putting them in a mental fog, just so that they will ostensibly to behave in the classroom. But there's something far broader than that, a far deeper agenda, isn't there, Anthony? That's what we were talking about.
Absolutely. As I said before, there's probably about 10% of the population that's destined for greatness to struggle against the system that currently is, active right now. The NSA, the TSA, 10% of people, I would say on average, maybe a little bit more. And ultimately, it is the goal, there's no question, of Big Pharma and the elite to go ahead and drug up the people that would cause problems. Because after all, they could hurt their profit margins. They could hurt the overall goals and agendas of the establishment.
Absolutely.
And those 10% are the ones that are being heavily medicated, along with maybe 10, 15 other percentages of individuals, because the doctors are profit-driven. Big Pharma is profit-driven. It's ultimately here's how the system works. They will spin something that they want. The establishment will create a market for something and then give a profit-driven incentive for others to go ahead and do it. Like I was talking about earlier, to give you a really good example. Web entrepreneurs, website developers and people who are launching their own organizations online, they have told me time and time again, and I know this to be true, user-driven websites where the users make their own content and write their own stories or post their own stuff is the #1 key to having a successful website where you don't have to do much. You just sit back and relax and it generates income. That is actually what the establishment's model is for this country. They will go ahead, and yes, they control the media and everything like that, but we are actually doing what they want if we are operating, in a capacity where we don't understand their model. For example, the politically correct agenda. When we actually bow down to these people and pretend we're morons and say, oh my God, I can't believe that, that waitress wasn't given a tip because she was homosexual and not care about, anything else, we are playing into their model. Or when we go ahead and we say, oh my God, I have to get anally probed by the police officers because this is the right thing to do. Yeah. We're playing into their agenda, and we're all going along with that unless we're, oppositionally and intellectually going against it.
And every time you see these stories about police abuse, we mentioned these stories about a prison situation where they sprayed a lady's vagina with mace as punishment. You never see any punishment of the people who are perpetrating these crimes because they're officially working for the state. And then, of course, the media comes in and covers for them and says, oh, but we need to be protected. We need to have the TSA down our pants because Al-Qaeda is such a threat. When we've got the documents from a lawsuit showing that in mid-2011, they were writing internally that they knew there was no terrorist threat. They knew the terrorists were simply propagandizing, fundraising, and recruiting, which is exactly what the TSA and Homeland Security are about.
Just a few days ago in Dallas at the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination, you were there. I mean,
I was watching it.
You were putting on,
I was virtually there.
Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry. We were literally attacked by the sheriff's office. Yeah. Federalized police. And there are some good articles, like we're going to talk about the Washington Times. There's a caller calling about it. But overall, they were saying the police were being, assaulted by protesters. We were literally standing there saying, hey, can we get past this barricade that you guys said we could get past? And they started just punching us. We have it on video, pushing people, kids and everything. It's going totally insane. Like totally third world level insane. And the media covered up for them and said, we started. And Alex Jones was yelling at them and provoking them. We were just standing there saying, hey, can we get past the barricades now?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to a couple of callers did call in. Before we get back to, we've got a couple of callers who wanted to talk about their child in the classroom, what we were talking about with ADD and with Ritalin. But since we mentioned the JFK, we had a couple of callers who called in about that. Let's go to Alan in Florida. He said that he saw the article that was about InfoWars in the Washington Times. Alan, are you there?
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Alan. I'm actually the one that wrote an article in the Washington Times communities. The reason I wrote it was I was watching the live stream, and I was just floored when I saw what happened. But I was even more astounded when I saw the failure of the media to respond and report on it. So I've published a follow-up article yesterday. It's called Media Silence After Deputies Attacked Journalists, Protesters. You can find it on Google News. And basically I make the argument that the reason the mainstream media is not covering this incident that happened in Dealey Plaza is they don't want to attract attention to the message of the protesters, to the message of InfoWars, of We Are Change, of the others that were there. Therefore, they're just ignoring it, but it's at their own peril, because if the journalists don't stick together, if we don't hang together, we hang separately, as you often say.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely amazed to see the media in Dallas not concerned about free speech issues. I'm amazed to see that they were going to just basically take a powder on this, and it got worse than that. Not only did they not complain about this zone of silence, they actually criticized anybody who complained about it. I mean, it's even another level deeper than that. It's bad enough when you have these political conventions and they, both Democrat and Republican, and they take the protesters and they put them literally in pens far, far away from the convention. And to then have the press go and attack those people as opposed to attacking the people who are putting free speech in a pen, that's the amazing thing to me, and that's coming from the press.
Well, there's no question, as we talked about live at the actual event, global wires now are coming to me and saying, one of the main guys saying that, yeah, we're told to totally smear you guys and talk about how crazy you conspiracy theorists are, but hey, I'm actually with you guys. And he was saying, I can't believe this insanity. So we know on record, journalists have said, and told Alex time and time again, they are out, from their superiors to get us. But they actually sometimes realize that, hey, we're actually telling the truth and on the right side of history right now. So that's what I'm going for. I want to ask Alan, do you think anyone really believes the other mainstream pieces where they say that we were just, assaulting officers and they were just defending themselves?
I looked at some of the comments, and I don't think people are giving a lot of credibility to their side of the story. And the video speaks for itself.
Yes.
No, absolutely.
That's the key. If people will look at it. But what I've seen so often is people who are not really paying attention to politics or what's going on around them, and they're just focused on football games or on pop culture. They just see this as a passing story, and it's like, oh, yeah, look, a bunch of crazy protesters. Yeah, a bunch of crazy protesters got stomped. They deserve that. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's how they're controlling us, because if everyone knew actually what was happening, then we would have a revolution tomorrow.
That's right.
It's the state of apathy they try and keep us in. That's why people with big voices, people with charisma, and people with passion and dedication are the biggest threat to the establishment.
That's right. Thank you, Alan. That was a great article. It's very informative. People can find it. We've had it up on the screen here for people who are watching. They can see the headline. Give us that headline one more time. Okay, he's gone. Media silence as
deputies attack journalists.
Thank you. And we've got Philip in California. He had a quick comment about JFK, and then we're going to get back to our subject of 14-year-olds and drugs in school. Philip, you wanted to say something about the JFK event?
Yeah, definitely. I watched it. I know that there were people that were denied permits. I am fully aware that they were acting like bullies, and you rightfully described them as bullies. Check this out. Okay, what they want at these illegal perimeters, what the police want, is for you to stand down the whole time, for them to ceremoniously pull down those guardrails and stuff. And they don't want you crossing until either regular traffic crosses or until they're completely gone and within a safe distance away from whatever might be happening or whatever.
To assert their dominance.
That's right. And that's what we
wanted, is us to punch back when they were punching us, because then they could really have justification. They'd probably take their guns out and shoot us at that point.
Exactly. I mean, just like this young kid in Bastrop who was tasered because the way he looked at the cops. That's their quote. They tasered this kid. He falls on the concrete floor, cracks his head. He's in a coma, may die. And what was his crime? The way he looked at the police. That's the way they're establishing their authority now. It's absolutely authoritarian.
If we actually fought back, which, at a primal level, you feel like you should. Intellectually you don't. But when the police are pushing you and punching you in the kidneys over and over again, you feel like you should actually do something about it. If we did, They probably would have just beat us to a pulp or shot somebody. Well, and the headline would have been police respond to conspiracy theory provocation or something like that. Police defend against rabid conspiracy theories. And then they would be like, conspiracy theories assaulted police officers after they're just punching us and pushing us. And we're like, hey, stop that.
You have to use asymmetric warfare. It's like the American Revolution, right? Where they had their victories was when they used guerrilla tactics, not when they lined up and marched straight ahead in the way that the British were fighting. If you use their tactics, whether you're talking about a real war, whether you're talking about an information war, if you use their tactics, you're basically going to lose, especially if you're talking about something that's physical, because they dominate the physical situation right now.
Yeah, we're taking it intellectually. I mean, intellectually, we're just being punched in the kidneys over and over again as well.
That's right.
And people are just sitting there just getting punched over and over. And we're saying, hey, stop punching me, you know, at a proverbial level and fighting back.
But as long as we have the internet and we can communicate with people, there were 1 million people watching that happen live. A lot more people were watching on the feed. A lot more people have seen it afterwards. They have to get control of the information flow, and that's what they're trying to do. Now, you know, the NDAA, they're loading that up with amendments. They've got 507 amendments offered, but to piggyback onto this thing, but the one that really concerns me of many is this one from Rockefeller, and he's trying to put CISPA in the NDAA. And that's what they want to do. That's their number one priority, is to have an excuse to shut down the internet, to bully people the way that they're bullying them in the physical world. That's what they want to do on the internet, and they're going to use CISPA to do that. But let's get back to what we were just talking about with ADHD and the CDC.
It's really the state of control. It all ties into this. The police aren't, you know, actively in the state of control as well, working for the system. Everyone that's allowing ourselves to intellectually be beaten and punched in the kidneys over and over again are, you know, in the state of control. And the pharmaceutical drugging of the children is making sure they don't grow up to be that 10% of people that fight and rally against the system and grab, you know, hundreds of thousands and millions of people to fight alongside them.
Yes.
So we're going to talk, you know, specifically about how to escape that system. And I'd like to hear from people that were on the drugs and how they felt and how they got off of them.
Thank you, Philip, in California. Let's go to Steve in California. He says he has a child in the classroom. Steve?
Just checked my website.
Steve, are you there?
Yeah, hello.
Hello? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Dean. Yeah, hello?
Yes, go ahead. You're on the air.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Talking about my son, at 8 years old, he was having attention problems, and we took him to a psychiatrist, and he said he has ADHD. So knowing and listening to Alex for over 10 years and knowing what the school system does, knowing what drugs do, we decided he's an 8-year-old boy. He's got a lot of energy.
Yes.
He's got a lot of downtime, so no drugs. Now he's 13 and a half getting A's and B's. And what they have done with the school system, after reading a book, Dumbing Us Down, by John Gatto, Teacher of the Year, is that with his focus now, they're not having recess in school. They're eating heavily fat and sugared food, so their brain is not getting the nutrition. So that slows them down and makes them obese.
Yes.
I cook all his food for him, so he has plenty of energy, and he gets A's and B's. Now, adding to that, a counselor that I know in New Jersey was mentioning in middle school that she would get these boys that come in all bouncy and everything in the morning after their 11 o'clock dosing that they gave at the school. They would walk around like zombies.
Yeah. And probably in the morning, they were maybe bouncing around because of the high carbs and sugar that they'd just been.
So what's the 11 o'clock dosing? Like a time where all the kids go and they take their prescription?
Yeah, were they shooting them there at the school?
They're giving them medications at school. But here's another situation about my son and his assumed behavior, that he was disruptive in class and chewing in class. The teacher wrote him up, a disciplinary action. My son was sucking on a lozenge. He wasn't chewing it, so he was being honest. She asked him, and she wrote down on the disciplinary paper that my son, he was eaten during class.
So when they said your son had ADHD, though, what specifically did they tell you? That he needed medication and referred you to a doctor?
That he needed medication, that we should try him on different things. And my wife, who's an occupational therapist, we said no. I said, all kids, all boys have a lot of energy, and are moody, and they just go through phases.
Well, most parents would have done it. They would have just dosed up their kid with 50 different drugs if the teacher told them to, because the teacher is a total medical professional.
Thank you for sharing that, Steve. Parents need to hear that. Talking about 11 o'clock being medication time, would they have like Nurse Ratched come onto the intercom and you know?
Sounds like a trough of just pills, and the kids would just
medication time. You know, they all line up and get their cups with pills in it, just like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Damien, in South Carolina, you had experience with schools and drugs as well, I think, that you wanted to talk about.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey.
How are you?
Doing fine. What you got?
I've got 2 children, both boys. One has autism and Tourette's. The other one has Tourette's. The older one, from the moment he started having issues, as a younger child, they wanted to put him on drugs, and we didn't do it. And he's doing fine now at 17 in high school. And the younger one, who does not have ADHD or autism, but he does have Tourette's, which makes him twitch and a bit of a distraction in the class. They wanted to medicate him, but we wouldn't do it. And he gets straight A's in school. But what we're seeing now is that he is he's really smart, and he speaks his mind both to the teachers and to his classmates. And that it's been causing issues for him as far as, kids targeting him for, literally assaults and attacks, because he doesn't toe the line as far as, the social engineering program in our public schools is going. And he's been assaulted twice now in school. And each time he stood up for himself, and he gets suspended along with the kid who assaults him, because the disciplinary policy now in our school district is if you...
Damien, hang on. We're going to be coming right back from the break. We'll continue with your call. We'll be right back. We're talking about the effect of medication in school and really what's behind all of this, the bigger picture. This all started from this new revelation from the CDC that 20% of 14-year-olds are now diagnosed and medicated for ADHD. We'll be right back.
Alex Jones here, and I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today.
With over 3,000 years of historic use, pure silver continues to be one of nature's most reliable and effective agents against fighting viruses, mold, fungus, bacteria, pathogens, and parasites. At Silver Lungs, we have developed a reliable and easy-to-use full production system for creating endless pure nano-silver solutions right from the convenience and comfort of your home. Your self-produced nano-silver solutions can be applied topically to the skin. For many who are new to silver that wish to try silver for the first time, we offer a full line of consumables and cosmetics, such as our 2-ounce nano-silver nasal sprays, our nano-silver soap, and our most popular product, the all-natural nano-silver gel. Visit www.silverlungs.com to learn more about the industry-leading technology of the Silver Lungs system. That's www.silverlungs.com.
To thank you for being a loyal listener, we have a limited time freebie offer for you. Claim your free heirloom tomato seeds, just pay shipping, right now at 123freeseeds.com. These aren't ordinary seeds. These are heirloom, non-genetically modified super seeds that are open pollinated and can be grown, harvested, and replanted endlessly. These survival seeds are actually more valuable than gold in a crisis. Go to 123freeseeds.com and you can get an airtight storage packet of 150 super seeds free while supplies last to say thank you for being a loyal listener. First come, first served. Just cover shipping. Go to 123freeseeds.com now to see if your free heirloom seeds are still available. That's 123freeseeds.com.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight here in Austin. I'm joined in studio with Anthony Gucciardi of StoryLeak, and we've just been talking about the epidemic, really, of medication in schools. And we're just talking to Damien in South Carolina. His two sons had autism and Tourette's. He kept them off of medication, and now, much later, they're thriving, except for the bullies there. Have they diagnosed those bullies with anything? Are they giving them any medication, Damien?
It's funny, as I was touching upon before the break, the policy they have, it's really just completely shocking. Not shocking that I'm surprised, but just shocking that, you know, if you are in a fight, you get suspended. And it doesn't matter if you were just standing there minding your own business and someone jumps on you and starts pounding on you. If you defend yourself, you're complicit in the entire violation because you've raised your hand to defend yourself. And so my son, one of the times he was targeted is the kid was making fun of him because of his threats, and he told him to shut up and leave him alone, and then the kid grabbed him, and then my son was able to fight him off, but the teacher just saw the two of them fighting, so they don't even bother now to find out.
It's an amazing, absolutely, it's an amazing control grid, isn't it? I mean, it's just the way that they indoctrinate the kids, medicate the kids. It's a system that was set up in the 1850s. Thank you, Damien. We're going to, we got a couple other calls that we want to get to, but I wanted to go to some of these. We got to do a product placement here. Is how we fund our operation, and I just wanted to talk to Anthony about some of the new stuff that's coming out because he's got the scoop on this coffee that Alex is starting to sell, which is amazing coffee.
My whole thing is, as the head of the Natural Society, third largest natural health site in the world, I don't ever really do plugs or anything like that unless I really believe in the product. And I can honestly say I was there from the creation of this coffee, when he was brewing up the idea, when he was looking for the best ones, actually examining the beans, testing like 50 different batches. You were there too, drinking some of the different kinds. I don't even drink coffee, but this stuff is actually good. And I know I'm getting health benefits from it too. And I know that the research is out there that, coffee on average is a good thing for your body.
Yes.
I've read it time and time again. I've actually tried to start drinking coffee, and I've had problems because, you go to an actual run-of-the-mill coffee place, and the coffee's, in my opinion, disgusting. You don't know if it's GMO. You don't know if there's pesticides. You don't know what kind of fertilizer they've been using.
That's right.
You don't know any of that stuff. And I do actually know where this is coming from. And at the same time, it's called the Patriot Blend. The reality is when you are drinking it, you are actually waking up others, supporting the operation. Because I've seen what Alex has to do. Just the JFK thing was major expenditures, getting out there, bringing the crew there, getting the rooms, actually inexpensive, all that stuff was super inexpensive in relative terms because CBS, NBC were there. I talked to the guy, one of the heads of CBS, the logistics department, in the bathroom, and he had 45 people under him.
Wow.
They were all in one of the nicest hotels in the area.
Wow.
I mean, we're just trying to catch up and just completely blasting everyone out.
But it's just like what Damien in South Carolina was talking about, and the fellow before him, Steve in California, about their children in classrooms. You need to take charge of your own life and take charge of your family's life. Think about what you're eating. Think about the supplements that you're taking. I mean, it's the iodine. I mean, that's a key thing. People are not getting enough iodine. It used to be put in as part of the bread. They've taken that out. It used to be part of the baking process. You used to get a lot of iodine in that. Now you get zero from that, unless you're eating a lot of seafood and shellfish, and then you've got concerns about mercury contamination or radiation.
People really actually have no idea. To get into the depth of it would take hours. Dr. Group has formulated literally, the best products I can find. And with the iodine, teaming up with him and, delivering the best possible thing, I just told you off air, that I was taking it. I'm starting to feel kind of bad being out in 28-degree weather for 12 hours a day during the JFK protest. I mean, I'm taking the iodine. That's what I go to take.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I figured the entire crew was going to be sick when they came back. But we're going to be right back. Jakari Jackson is going to be joining us in the next hour. Thank you very much, Anthony. Appreciate it. That was a great spot. It's very important for people to understand what's happening to their children in school, to be active, to be proactive, to take responsibility. Stay tuned.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Renowned author and expert, Joel Skousen.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
What I tell people is that you do have time. We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states, most people won't even be ready, won't be able to get out of town because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy. This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. Available only at InfoWarsShop.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex. We have an exciting show today. I'm going to be joined in the next segment with Jakari Jackson, and we're going to take your calls and discuss the news. But this is a story that came out yesterday that I think is really important, and it kind of gets to the heart of what's wrong with our country. Actually, Rand Paul pointed it out with 3 bills that he had, a read the bill, a write the bill, and one subject at a time. The NDAA has kind of been the catch-all for every kind of tyranny that you can imagine, especially the Indefinite Detention Act has gotten the attention of everybody. A couple of years ago, they threw that in. And we understand the implications of that. We understand the danger of that. We understand the infrastructure of tyranny that's been built with that. Now we see that the Senate is looking at 507 amendments that people are trying to stuff into this bill. And this is the way they do it every time. This is why Rand Paul had his one subject at a time, where he said, we're not going to take something that is ostensibly about funding the military and use that as a leverage to put in something about indefinite detention without trial by the military of American citizens, assuming that because we've got a declaration of war in Afghanistan, or actually not even really an official declaration of war, but it's an authorization for the use of military force in Afghanistan, they say now that they've got a war going on in America. And because we got a war going on in America, therefore, they can pick up anybody and detain them indefinitely in military facilities. That's what they snuck into the NDAA 2 years ago, a bill that was about authorizing defense appropriations. Now we see that this year we've got Rockefeller, Senator Rockefeller, he's still alive, and he's still doing his Rockefeller stuff, trying to stuff into the NDAA 2014 bill a cybersecurity bill, which is exactly what CISPA was about. And it says here in the RT article, it says, if the amendment manages to stay intact as Congress prepares to approve the authorization for 2014, the Cybersecurity Act of 2013, which has been defeated over and over again, may finally become law. That's exactly the purpose. And according to Rockefeller, this is how he puts it out here. We want to formalize cybersecurity as one of NIST's priority areas of focus. In other words, the government is going to focus on cybersecurity. They're losing the info war. They have to get control of the internet in the same way that they control the streets in Dallas when they don't allow free speech, the same way they control the streets of any city when they're having a major political convention. They want to basically shut down free speech. And to do that, they're going to claim that it's in the name of cybersecurity, because every time they rob you of your liberty, they claim that they're making you safer. No, when you give up your liberty, you get slavery, not security. Slaves are never secure. People who have given up their liberties are never secure. You need to understand that. It is not a trade-off between liberty and security. But he's putting it out there. He's saying we got to make that our number one priority. We need to develop a set of voluntary cybersecurity standards for the critical infrastructure. And he's joined in this. It's being endorsed by AT&T, Verizon, Motorola, the Electric and Nuclear Power Coalition, IBM, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Now, why are these big businesses getting behind this? Well, one of the things that's going on, you need to understand that whenever you give your information to Facebook or you give it to the phone company, and we're going to be talking to Jakari Jackson about what's exactly going on with Facebook and the facial recognition systems that are put into that. But whenever you give up your information to a third party, it's the government's position, and I believe it's a legal fiction. We need to address this directly. It's their position that if a third party has information on you, the government doesn't need to get a search warrant to get that information from the third party. You've given it up legally to that third party. The third party can just hand it over to you whenever they ask. There are still some civil litigation issues if these third parties do that, and that's what they're trying to protect against. It's not that they're going to necessarily take new action. They're looking at everybody's communication constantly now. They're just trying to protect the big corporations and give themselves yet another excuse to shut people down. We'll be right back with Jakari Jackson. Stay tuned.
Alex Jones here, and I want to tell you about a longtime friend of the show, My Patriot Supply. As you might remember, this is the company that stood up to the DHS and exposed FEMA's secret plan to begin hoarding emergency survival food. It has always been my belief that it's key to stand behind companies who share the same values as their fellow patriots. My Patriot Supply brings us their exclusive Patriot Pantry brand, along with many other fine preparedness products. I personally store and use their high-quality products. It tastes great, and it's easy to store for up to 25 years. For a limited time, you can save $50 instantly on a 4-week supply of food, along with other special offers. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. With the New World Order making rapid advances on every front, it is essential to prepare with My Patriot Supply today. Why does the United States spend the largest percentage of GDP in the world on healthcare? Why do we have the highest cancer rates on the planet, the highest rates of diabetes, autism, and every other major disease? It all comes down to one thing. We are what we eat. Our food is devoid of nutrition and processed with poisons and additives. Our water is filled with toxic poisons and big pharma runoff. All of this has been engineered by design. We can turn the tide against the eugenicist by giving ourselves the nutrients our body desperately needs. To learn more, visit InfoWarsHealth.com. The site is literally packed with audio and video featuring top health professionals who don't bow down to big pharma. The fight against the New World Order starts with you, and you can't stand against the machine if you're sick, tired, and obese. When you visit InfoWarsHealth.com, be sure and check out the catalog with nearly 400 life-changing products, and get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filters today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
take you live to the Central Texas Command Center in the heart of the resistance. It's Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex, and I'm joined in studio with Jakari Jackson. He's got an interesting story to go over, but before we do that, I want to talk about what's at the top of the Drudge Report right now. And that is, it looks like there may be yet another challenge to Obamacare going to the Supreme Court. Now, this one is centered around Hobby Lobby. And if you remember at the beginning of the year, they were facing fines of $1.5 million a day because they're a Christian business, and in conscience, in good conscience, they felt that they could not provide health care for their employees that would pay for contraception and abortion. It was a matter of conscience. But the amazing thing, Jakari, is that you're seeing Obamacare. One of the reasons people's Obamacare insurance rates are skyrocketing by a factor of 2, sometimes cases of 5 or more, and that their deductibles are drying up is because they're forcing young men who are not married, who don't have children, they're forcing them to get health care for abortions that, of course, they're never going to use, or
maternity care and all that.
Yeah, or maternity care or pediatric care for children that they don't have. They're packing this thing in with all kinds of stuff that nobody needs. And, of course, the insurance companies are never going to have to pay on those claims, right? It's just pure transfer of wealth. People look at this and say, this is a transfer of wealth from the middle class to the poor. And that's true to some degree. But the biggest transfer is from the middle class to the insurance companies. It's absolutely amazing what they are putting into these insurance policies. But this is another case that's going to go now to the Supreme Court. They've agreed to hear Hobby Lobby's case, so it'll be interesting to see how that happens. But you came in to talk about something else. We've got these stories that came out yesterday on the Drudge Report about embracing facial recognition.
Yes, people want you to embrace facial recognition. Now, this is nothing new for things such as social networks, you know, back to MySpace and whatever else they had. You know, you can find your ancestry or find celebrities that look like you. You just submit photos of yourself, and it's fun, and they find out if, you know, you look like Sean Connery or...
I wonder if Obama did that, The Dreams of My Real Father, you know. he had a documentary filmmaker who did that and went back and said, hey, I've got somebody that's very close to Obama that looks a lot more like him than the guy he says is really his father, but I'm sorry.
Right. No, that's all on point, because we talk about people submitting things to the surveillance state. I believe it's just last week or so I was in here with you talking about how they want to do things here in the city of Austin where the police want to take over private cameras and use them for police use. Yeah. And it's just more...
Just feed it straight in.
Just feed it straight in.
Yeah.
But now we have people on Facebook, and it's nothing new, like I said, volunteering information. And this first video we have, it's about a gentleman who committed a crime. He and his brother went out, and I believe they committed 17 robberies or so forth. And the police are, you know, they're trying to crowdsource. They put out something on Facebook. Hey, we're looking for these 2 guys. They're, you know, people of interest. The guy, in all of his infinite wisdom, heckles the police on Facebook using his real name, picture, and so forth. Ha ha, you can't catch me. And if we have this video, I'd like to show this to our viewers on prisonplanet.tv.
Rosenberg Police, located near Houston, posted this burglary notice on the department's Facebook page. It states that Damian Lozano and Rolando Lozano are wanted for 17 vehicle break-ins. Rolando replies to the post saying, I'm innocent. Catch me if you can. He also calls the police some choice words. The next post has more photos of Rolando, this time in handcuffs. Officers found him hiding out at a family member's home.
So this is, you know, it's the degradation of society. You know, people just, I don't know, it's the collapse of society like Alex talks about all the time. You know, just people just do stupid stuff. You know, these guys remind me of like a low grade, more common version of the Riddler. You know, this is like this is the idiocracy version of the Riddler. You can't catch me. I'm just going to get online with my real name, my real face, and tell you where I am, and, you know, you can't catch me.
I remember years ago, there was a stupid bank robber, and he wrote his note to the teller saying, give me all the money. He wrote it on the back of his personal deposit slip.
Oh,
you know, so you got stories like that. So, but this is now the electronic version of it. You know, they essentially write it on their Facebook.
Yes, and you're talking about bank robbers. We have another clip. Now, this clip came out a little while ago. You know, people have probably already seen it, but it ties into what we're talking about right now. This is a young lady who goes out successfully, takes somebody's car, robs a bank. And, you know, she gets away clean, and the only way the police were able to catch her was because she put it on her own Facebook page, her own YouTube page. If you're watching on prisonplanet.tv, you can see the young lady holding about $6,000 in cash in her hands, the same amount that was taken from the bank in question, and then she was arrested for the robbery. And why would you do this, David Knight? And it's just the idiocracy. You know, people always say, you know, I'll bring in this technology into my house. I have nothing to hide. You know, if you're a criminal and you want to do stupid stuff and then post it on Facebook, YouTube for anybody to see, keep doing that so the police can catch you.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing is that people, there seems to be this cognitive dissonance there that they want to brag about it, and yet they think that the police won't be looking at it. You know what? Of all the people that are looking at it, it's the government that's looking at it. There was a couple of stories that came out yesterday. There was one that was linked on Drudge yesterday, and it's a CNN story. It says, Embracing Big Brother, How Facial Recognition Could Help Fight Crime. Now, they talk about that, but they also, that was a story that came out yesterday. They also linked in the body of the story to another CNN article, which said, Embracing the Police Force of the Future. You know, CNN is going out of its way to tell us what a gee whiz technology world we're going to live in, and how wonderful, yeah, and then just embrace this over and over again. They're talking about embracing the police state. And look at what this involves. From the story yesterday, they're saying that the FBI is going to put out a facial recognition system that is set to change our ideas on privacy, and they say these exciting developments in the field will push its toughest critics to reconsider, and they say the more people get out of it, the more they'll surrender to it. That's what we're already doing with our smartphones. We've already surrendered because of the convenience of, and it is a convenient thing to have a map. I mean, I really rely on this having moved to Austin. I mean, I'm so dependent on my phone to find my way around. There's so many one-way streets and other places like that. I'm starting to get my way around with Dead Reckoning, but I still heavily rely on that phone, and yet it's my personal tracking device. They can track me wherever I go, and if the government weren't so concerned about following everybody, I wouldn't be so concerned about them following me.
But it's not just keeping up with your data, David, where you go and who you talk to. They're also selling this stuff. They sell it to these third parties that use it for AdSense. Just like you guys, I'm sure everybody, you know, has done a search online, and then all of a sudden you get all these things in your sidebar. You know, like the guys back when Katy Perry was on, they were talking about Katy Perry. Maybe they searched for Katy Perry, and now all the ads they get were for Katy Perry.
Yeah. Yeah,
the Katy Perry's dad was on. Excuse me.
Oh, let's interject that first, because this is one of my stack of articles that I don't know if we're going to get to or not. But the fact that they came after her as a racist because she dressed up in an Asian costume, you know, how are we dumbing down the term racism so much? I mean, that's a very dangerous thing, because that's something that's really serious, and yet they're making it so trivialized. I know that when we adopted our daughter from Asia, we had people who were, the adoptive mothers were wearing Asian clothes. Nobody considered that as being racist. That was like honoring their culture, you know, trying to make the child feel at home. There was nothing at all racist about that. I mean, if you're going to, and I didn't see the video. I'm not a Katy Perry fan. I don't watch MTV, but I get a sense of looking at this. Are you surprised?
Oh, man, I don't believe it.
I don't get a sense that looking at this, that she was doing this in a way to mock Asian people. Okay, it was a way, if anything, of honoring their culture, and we see this over and over again with the Redskins and other things. It's just amazing to me how they've dumbed this down. I just had to interject.
Yeah, because you think about, you know, you go to Mexico now and you go buy a sombrero, and now you come back and you know, want to wear it around town and, you know, do whatever with it, have it up on the wall in your house, and that's racist.
Yeah,
I don't understand this notion of, you know, like when you see I guess Asian people wearing a New York Yankees hat, is that racist because they choose to wear some American paraphernalia?
Yeah, it's absolutely over the top, crazy, and I hate to see it because they're using it, of course, for their own agenda. It's a political correctness that they're trying to impose on people. They're trying to shut down debate. They're trying to intimidate people. But what they're doing is they're taking something that was a real problem and is a real problem, and they're basically making it a laughingstock.
But you know, when they do that, David, they're not just telling you can't embrace this culture. They're telling you what your culture should be. No, you shouldn't do that. You should do exactly what MTV tells you to do. You should dress how they tell you to. You should talk like how they tell you to. You should listen to music they tell you to.
It's control. And talking about control, let's go back to this article again, because there's one more thing I want to point out about it. And this is from the article on CNN Tech, and it says facial recognition is a key part of the FBI's ambitious $1 billion next-generation ID system, a state-of-the-art biometric identification system that includes iris scans, DNA analysis, and voice identification. And the mission is to reduce terrorist and criminal activity. That's the way they always put it out there.
Is.
You know what? This is about inventorying you. You are the inventory. I mean, we're not at Soylent Green yet, where you're the food source, right? But they are just like we talked about before with this racist thing, where they're trying to control what you're allowed to say, what you're allowed to think. They're also now looking at everything that you do, because you're essentially their slaves, and they need to keep inventory of what you're doing. That's the real thing that we're talking about racism. That this is the real slavery, the slavery of the future, where you can't go anywhere, do anything without your masters knowing exactly what you're doing, everything about your life. Total control, total surveillance grid.
And when you speak about that surveillance grid, we reported on it earlier this year when the young man was on Facebook, and he had some colorful things to say about Obama, and he was arrested for that, for dare criticizing President Obama. And he's one of these young guys, he's a rapper type, he's giving people the middle finger on his Facebook post. It's silly. It's definitely not to be taken seriously, but they still come and arrest this guy.
Yeah. And when they're looking at this, and they say they want to look at everybody's facial recognition, voice recognition, DNA analysis, of course they're saying, we want to look at criminals, but they're looking at you. You are a suspect.
They have to look at you to filter out to make sure you're not a criminal.
And you see how we've turned that upside down. You're no longer innocent until proven guilty. You are a criminal until you've been vetted by their systems. And what happens if in a situation like Tuttle versus Buttle, Brazil, where they get the wrong guy and they make a mistake, or the automatic screening of the systems puts a finger on you, you get a SWAT team and you may die because of that.
You're on a no-fly list, even though
Exactly. We'll be right back. I'm here with Jakari Jackson. I'm David Knight. Stay tuned.
An e-cig revolution is sweeping across the country. But is yours American-made? Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig is. Manufactured in Arkansas with 100% USA-sourced ingredients. And when you buy American, you support local jobs. Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig is top quality at an affordable price. The very principle that once drove the American economy. Get great taste with no ash, tar, or smoke. You'll be wondering why you didn't make the change to Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig a long time ago. LeSig.com has everything you need, for beginners to the advanced vaping enthusiast, with a wide variety of hardware, and also imported e-liquid flavors as well. Plus, LeSig smokes the competition with fast, free, same-day shipping, real people customer service, and a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. Support our country and become a Vaporite at LeSig.com. Or call 870-525-1440, 870-525-1440. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
Protecting your home with a security system is a must. But when it comes to protecting your family, your home, and belongings, there's no need to sign a long-term contract. Listen, there is some real scum in the alarm business, cashing in by locking you into long, punishing contracts. Not with Simply Safe Home Security. They're the good guys. You can trust Simply Safe to protect your family. Simply Safe was created by a Harvard Business School engineer, and it's revolutionary. You'll get 24-hour protection for just $14.99 a month. There are no hidden fees and no contracts. You'll save thousands. Plus, you're protected by their 100% money-back guarantee. Protect yourself against home invasions and break-ins. Order your Simply Safe system now and receive a wireless keychain remote, a $25 gift, free. So don't waste your time dealing with scum. Visit GetSimplySafe.com. GetSimplySafe.com. GetSimplySafe.com.
It's been said, those who control the food control the people. Are you concerned about GMO foods making you sick and affecting your mind? Many people suffer from lack of energy, insomnia, loss of stamina, weight gain, and the inability to think clearly. Genetically modified crops, processed foods, and toxic chemicals can compromise your health and are silently destroying your digestive system, which accounts for 80% of your immune system. Take back control of your health with Pro EM1 Probiotic from Terraganics. Pro EM1 Probiotic helps protect your body against irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, diabetes, the common cold, and much more. And including a powerful probiotic like Pro EM1 as part of your daily routine, puts you back in control and prevents you from becoming a mindless zombie manipulated by the pharmaceutical and GMO agendas. Call Terraganics at 866-369-3678 or visit Terraganics.com. TerraGanix.com.
For over 5 years, you've been hearing about the Berkey guy, so you may know a few things about him. For example, you are well aware of the superior quality and effectiveness of Berkey water filters and accessories. But did you know the Berkeys have had independent lab tests done to prove just how effective they are? It's true, and he can email you the test results. Just visit goberkey.com. You may also know that the Berkey guy has helped tens of thousands of people get better prepared. Now here's something you may not know. GoBerkey.com has amazing specials and deals all the time on a wide variety of survival and preparedness products. Most ready to ship same day. Visit the Berkey guy at goberkey.com and be sure to click the red Products on Sale Now button. You can always call toll-free 877-886-3653. Again, that's 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com, home of the Berkey guy.
There's a gun and ammunition just inside the doorway.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex, and I'm joined in studio with Jakari Jackson from the Nightly News. And Jakari, it's interesting being in here instead of in the Nightly News, isn't it?
It is very much that. It's a lot colder in this studio.
That's right. But if you don't know what the Nightly News is, take a look at it. This is a good time of year to get a subscription to support our operation here. All of Alex's documentaries are available there, as well as, if you don't know, we've got a nightly news broadcast there every night. I'm there, or Jakari's there, or Leanne McAdoo, where it's a very good way to keep up on the news. It's a very good way to share that information with others. You can pass that on to up to 10 other people can be viewing it simultaneously. So you can help to wake up friends and family with a subscription to the InfoWars Nightly News. Now, when we went to break, Jakari, CJ came in, and I'm sorry, Chris Johnson came in, and he gave us a
new report, because we were talking about, if you're just now joining us, we were talking about the surveillance state. Now people willfully submit to the surveillance state, and then they end up busted by the police, or whatever the situation may be. Right. Now we have this Texas Park and Wildlife Department. They're arresting people, these poachers, I guess you could call them, who are illegal hunting. When it's not time to hunt.
They take a picture of what they just bagged and they put it up on Facebook, and these guys
so that's
look them up.
Like we were just talking about these guys, the girl who robbed the bank and then she posted the money on her YouTube page, or the guy who is in conflict with the police and he's saying, hey, you guys can't catch me, and they come find him 10 minutes later. Now we have these guys, they're out, like you said, they're getting their game, they're posting the pictures, and the guys are saying, the Texas Department is saying, well, okay, that's Bill, let's go track him down using facial recognition or whatever else they have, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, and then they go find these guys. It's just, people just keep adding to this.
Yeah, there was an amazing video that came out in the last couple of days of a guy who was kind of a frontiersman. He got arrested for fishing without a license.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen that, you've got to watch that, because it's an amazing video, standing up for his rights. He says, it's kind of like if you go back and you look at Robin Hood and Sheriff of Nottingham, where they said all the deer belong to us. The government is asserting ownership over everything. I understand the needs to control things to make sure they're not overfished, but we also see that can be abused, and we see that happening quite often. And so that's an amazing video to watch. And we're going to be talking about juries in the next segment. Now, I apologize to people who called in to talk about medications, but we're going to clear those phone lines. And in the next segment, we want to hear your comments about jury nullification, because we just had a case here in Texas that was amazingly interesting, and we want to lay that out for you and get your comments on it. Our number was 888-259-9231 if you want to call in and talk to us about your experiences with juries or jury nullification. But there's one other thing on this subject before we leave it, and that's something that just came out. It was posted on the Liberty Crier, and it's about a DNA gun, where they basically have a protest like there was going on in Dallas last week about protesting the suspension of the First Amendment around the JFK commemoration, 50th anniversary of his assassination. And they can go to a group of people and shoot them with this DNA gun, and somehow it marks your DNA, and they can then come back at a later time, and when things have calmed down, as they put it, and they can start testing people to to I've got a different calling number here. You can give that out in just a second.
I'll give this out, not to interrupt you, David, but the phone number to call in is 800-259-9231. Again, that's 800-259-9231. We'll get you on the air.
I guess one of the things that concerns me about this DNA gun is the fact that they're going to go around then and they're going to test everybody to see if you were at that event. So everybody becomes a subject.
We have to go gather from everybody just to weed you out. It's not, we think it's this guy, so we'll go get this guy.
And there on the clip there is a picture of somebody using this latest invention.
That's on prisonplanet.tv, and this guy seems to be rather excited about his new DNA gun.
That's right. There's always money to be made in terms of building an infrastructure of tyranny. There they go. Now,
so
what are the health effects of that? I would like to know as well.
What it is, if you're a radio listener, it seems to be somewhat like a paintball gun. And even after you take off your clothes, they just demonstrated a guy being shot on the shirt. He takes off his shirt, and then you can still see the splotch using infrared.
And it says here, for under $200, the police will then come to your house. They will put a specially coated glue that dries completely clear in just a few minutes on the valuables that you want marked, and they can identify those valuables for you. But they're also going to do the same thing now with you because, see, your inventory. You know, they've had these programs where they would do that to your valuables, but now you're the inventory for the government. Just like we talked about before, CNN wants us to embrace this new biometric identification system that's going to be all pervasive. And of course, one of those things is going to be the DNA. And they're going to mark your DNA if you're at a riot, maybe if you're just standing around. Maybe you get hit by an oversplash of that. And now they're going to come and they're going to treat you as if
you there, man. I was just walking down the street.
Exactly. Another piece of the tyranny infrastructure that's being put into place. We're going to be right back, and we're going to talk about this case here in Texas where a jury nullified the law. We'll be right back.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the life straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com. In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even though I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months. simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, filling in for Alex, and I'm joined in studio here with Jakari Jackson. And we're going to be talking about a very interesting case, I think, of jury nullification, but it brings up the larger issue of jury nullification. And we want you to call in and let us know if you've had any issues. We're going to be taking your calls. Tell us what you think about jury nullification. Tell us if you've had experiences as a juror, experiences as a defendant in that issue. And again, our number is 888-259.
Excuse me, David. The number is 800-259-9231.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's 800-259-9231.
Somehow I got that wrong earlier. Okay, 800-259-9231. Now, I was at a green fair just a couple of weeks ago, and this is to give you an idea of how important it is to take care of your water. There are these people at this green fair. We're talking about all these natural, wholesome things, and being off the grid, taking care of your own food and that sort of thing. And yet, they had a person there that had a whole system water filter, and I tried the water, and I asked him, I said, is this filtering out glyphosates? Is this filtering out fluoride? And he didn't even know what those were. He said, no. Wow. Checked on the thing. He's like, no, it doesn't filter any of that out. It's a very complex system, very nice-looking system, but it's really important that you compare water filters. And I think we've got one of the best water filters here. It's the ProPure filter. Right now, before Christmas, you can get 20% off. It's a limited time.
That's code WATER20.
That's right, WATER20, and you get 20% off of that ProPure filter, and it does filter fluoride. It does filter glyphosate. And this guy had no idea what the issue with fluoride was, and I said, well, all right, even if you think that it's healthy, let me ask you if it makes sense to medicate people through the water supply. You don't have any control over the dosage. It's forced medication. So even if you think this is something that is good for you, do you think that it ought to just be randomly dumped in large quantities? I mean, we know that
why don't we medicate everybody for everything through the water if it's such a good idea?
Exactly. It makes absolutely no sense. But it's yet another one of these areas where you need to take responsibility for what you eat, what you drink, what your family has. And that's one of the ways that you can do it is you can look at the water that you're getting. You can filter that and get out things like glyphosate, which is what's being put in with Roundup. We see that happening more and more, getting into the water supply because of the GMO crops. They create these GMO crops that don't die when they hit them with Roundup, but everything else does. And so they're using it in large amounts, and that's getting down into the groundwater supply. So even if you've got a well, you've got to worry about glyphosate. It's not just the fluoride and chlorine.
A very common thing that people can recognize is dental fluorosis. They have, I believe there's a case going on in Austin right now where people are trying to sue the city of Austin for that reason, because all this fluoride in the water and so forth.
That's right. Now, we were just talking at the beginning of the program about how they use the term conspiracy theorist to essentially shut down any dissent, to really shut down any analysis of what the government is telling us when they're giving us stories that don't make any sense, when we know that they're covering up evidence and they're not releasing it.
Talking about, I got to interject here, David Knight. We talked about this the day, I believe it was Friday, when the guys were up in Dallas. And right before our broadcast, a major news network came on and called James Tague, the guy who was hit by a ricochet during the JFK assassination. They came on and called him a conspiracy theorist.
That's right. He was one of 3 people that was hit on that day.
Lo and behold, somebody who was actually there.
That's right.
Struck by a ricochet, and he's some conspiracy theorist because he knows what actually happened.
And they shut him down. They would not allow him anywhere near their little Hunger Game type ceremony because he didn't believe the official story. He wasn't a conspiracy theorist. He was analyzing the facts. And he was saying, I know I was there. I know what I heard. I know what I saw. And I know that you're not releasing a lot of information that you have. And yet they just marginalize him by calling him a conspiracy theorist. We see people doing that to Alex Jones. Look at this clip from Jeremy Scahill. We had a caller who called in and compared him to Amy Goodman, and this is what Jeremy Scahill said about Alex Jones.
Talking to Jeremy Scahill about his book, Dirty Wars, and the next call comes from Richard in Austin, Texas. Hi, Richard. You're on Book TV. Jeremy Scahill is our guest.
Thanks for taking my call. I got a quick question for you. We've seen the rise of Amy Goodman and Alex Jones in the last 10, 20 years. Which version of journalism would you consider the most legitimate form of it? Alex Jones, who gets most of his money from the public, or Amy Goodman, who I guess she's somewhat publicly funded, but Alex Jones is more basic. Can you give me an answer to that?
I get the question. I want to be very careful in choosing my words here. I think that Alex Jones is a lunatic, an absolute diehard, insane lunatic. And I think to even mention him in the same sentence as Amy Goodman is an incredible insult to Amy Goodman. Alex Jones has forwarded some of the most outrageous, ridiculous conspiracy theories about how the world works.
Conspiracy
and
theories.
whatever good he might be doing in some of what he does is completely overshadowed by the fact that he is pushing outright lies and propaganda on a regular basis.
You know, these lies,
and I think
they
it
always talk about Alex is spewing, because when you ask somebody to actually tell you a lie, there are things that are disputed, like Sandy Hook, like Aurora, whatever. You may not agree with what Alex Jones says, but when you ask them to point out an outright lie, they can't give you anything.
Well, he didn't give any answers, and that's exactly what we were talking about, just as you're talking about James Tague and others. They try to marginalize you by going ad hominem, by attacking the man, by saying you're a conspiracy theorist. Jeremy Scahill never mentioned anything that he had against Alex specifically.
Exactly.
And so, you know, he's saying that any good that he might do, well, you know what? Where is Jeremy Scahill in terms of looking at what's going on at the airports? Or where is he in terms of looking at what's happening in the background of these things? We're trying to put together the pieces. We're trying to analyze these things.
You know, people being cavity searched on the side of the road. You know, is he out there covering those type of events?
Exactly. But, you know, as Paul Joseph Watson points out, he's trying to ingratiate himself to the left-wing foundations. That's the way they get access as well. You know, they not only ingratiate themselves to the foundations that are funding the mainstream media, but it's also a way that he gets access. So if he trashes people who are really pointing out what's going on with the bankers, who really points out what's going on with Obamacare, we've been saying from the very beginning, Alex has said that Obamacare was a massive transfer of wealth from the middle class to the insurance companies, that the insurance companies wrote it. We see that's the case now. We see that the companies, the corporations are writing the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So we understand where this is coming from. He's read their documents. They've been saying for decades, this is exactly what they were going to do. This is their plan. They're following the plan. When we talk about that, they say, you're talking about a conspiracy. And we say, yes, we're analyzing it. It's not a theory. We have the documents.
That's all I always say to people. You know, it may be a conspiracy, but what part of what I just said is a theory? Exactly. You're a conspiracy theory. I'm like, you have no argument.
Exactly. Everything that we see coming out with Snowden, we already talked about that. We knew that's been going on for decades. We know that the NSA was doing that. We knew this, what the intelligence community was doing.
We knew that your TVs and your computers were watching you through the monitors, and it's just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago, that came out mainstream news.
Yes.
You know, we've been talking about that for years.
Yes, but of course, if you mentioned that, you were a paranoid conspiracist, right? You're paranoid. They're watching me. Well, I think it was Henry Kissinger.
Xbox is watching you. They don't want to talk about that. It was just the other day. Please don't pull this up, guys. the guy who had a PS4 and had his naked wife on the PlayStation 4. I mean, they can watch you if they want to.
That's right. Let's change gears now, and let's talk about this jury nullification. We had a Texas judge here publicly denounce the jurors for acquitting a guy. Now, he was brought in for drunk driving, and this is not typically what we talk about when we talk about jury nullification. Jury nullification is typically about situations where there's public safety is not involved, where it's not about murder. They always like to make it about murder. They like to make it about drunk driving. Typically, it's about the jurors coming in and saying during alcohol prohibition that we don't think that alcohol should be prohibited.
Yeah.
And so they would refuse
the law.
Or they disagree with the way that it's being applied. They think that the penalties are too stringent. We see in the drug war that Ronald Reagan created, they came up with zero tolerance, and they started filling up the prisons with people who were marijuana users, not selling it, not the major gangsters. Those people were working with the CIA.
Right.
Instead, they went after the users, and they started filling up the prisons to the extent that they had to release nonviolent They had to release violent criminals. Yes, they had to release violent criminals in order to lock up these nonviolent trespassers, you could say. So they had murderers and rapists that were being turned out of the prisons until they could go on this massive prison building program that they had. Now, here in Tarrant County, they found a guy who was 17 not guilty of drunk driving despite a blood alcohol level of 0.95. That was above the legal limit of 0.8. Now, if you go back just a few years ago, you understand that they've been moving this legal limit of alcohol. Now, it's kind of funny for us to be talking about this because neither one of us drink, okay?
Right.
But we understand the principles involved here. And you understand that they have taken down the drunk driving level, and the people felt that this was within the tolerance of the equipment, and they let this guy go. And the judge absolutely went crazy on them. He said, you asked me if you could ignore the intoxilizer thing, and he says, I told you you couldn't, and you did it anyway. He absolutely went crazy on these jurors, but there was nothing he could do about it. This is where our power lies. Not necessarily in redefining the drunk driving rules, but if we believe that they've been brought down and they've become abusive, if we believe that the penalties are abusive, it is our duty as citizens to make sure that justice is done. And so we are there to judge not just the facts as the judge gives it to us. The jury did exactly the right thing, and the judge was powerless to do anything about it.
And when you talk about this drunk driving, David, it's not just about when it ends up in court in the situation with this young man, but think of the other things they've been able to bring in on the guise of drunk driving, these no refusal blood draws.
Yes, because we've allowed that to happen, because we've allowed them to continually move the bar, move the line on the drunk driving. We have these outrageous things, like you mentioned, the no refusal weekends here in Texas, where they can basically pull you over.
And in San Antonio, it's 365 days a year.
Wow, wow. So they can pull you over, they can forcibly remove blood from you, and as we've seen on videos, we see people strapped down in these gurneys who refuse to do this.
What country is this?
Yeah, they'll take you back to the police department, they'll strap you down and take the blood anyway.
Exactly.
It's absolutely amazing. But that's something that you need to take a look at, and it's something that we have here in Texas. We have we have the opportunity in Texas to actually go before a jury, even in traffic cases. And that's something that we need to do that, because in so many cases, they'll set up a special court, and it's essentially a kangaroo court. And they come in and just process the people through and collect the fines and collect the fees. And there are just so many things wrong with that system. People need to stand up
to fight back. They just expect you to take the fine or the fee or the whatever else.
We've got some callers calling in, and hopefully it's about jury nullification. Let's go to Kyle. Kyle, what do you think about this? What? I don't think we got Kyle there. Let's go to the next one here. We've got Paul in New Jersey.
Actually, you know, the jury nullification, we're not under the Constitution anymore. We're operating under the UCC.
That's right. That's right. I understand. Yeah, I understand.
And, Obamacare is a tax. You could, you don't have to apply for that, and you could use the UCC to stay away from it.
Yeah, that's interesting. But what about going before the jury? We had a case, you're in New Jersey. We had a guy, New Jersey weed man, and he had about a pound of marijuana. It was medical marijuana, and that was a major amount. I mean, they were going to have him for trafficking. It was going to be a big fine. He went to the jury and argued jury nullification. He represented himself because, of course, lawyers won't do that. Typically, they're afraid they're going to lose their license. There's going to be recriminations on them by judges. Just recently, New Hampshire passed a law saying that the judges could not take recrimination against an attorney who mentioned jury nullification, but they didn't require the judges to tell the jurors that they have a right to judge the facts as well as the case. So you still have that happening, but he successfully represented himself and got out. What do you think about taking the tact of jury nullification?
Well, that's great if you could get by with it, but you know, people are so dumbed down they don't know what it's all about.
That's true. It's about getting your fellow citizen, and you have to essentially trust the other people. Thank you for calling, Paul. Let's go to Bubba in Virginia. Bubba, what do you think about this jury nullification case in Texas?
Yes, I really applaud these people for doing that, and I think, kind of segue off the previous caller, education is a big part of that, and
That's where people are really lacking. They don't bring this on the evening news, how people should go out and educate themselves. They don't offer classes in any university that I've ever seen.
Well, you know what I like about jury nullification is when we look at state nullification or we look at trying to reform the federal government, I mean, that has become so corrupt. It's just, I don't really see that happening. But at the state level, we've got state nullification. But if you go into a jury situation, it's just you. It only takes one person to hang the jury. It takes a unanimous decision to convict somebody, but one person can stop injustice from being done. And I think you're right. It is an educational issue because we have to educate people that they don't just follow blindly whatever they're told by authority figures.
That's pretty much what we've seen. You don't want a jury that comes in and just, you know, the judge says this is the way it is, or the prosecutor says this is the way it is, and that's the way it is. No, you need to judge, you know, the content and the facts of the case. You know, do you agree with this? Because, and always put yourself in the situation, this could be me. You know, you have a traffic situation.
Absolutely.
You get caught by a red light camera. You know, this could be me. Would I want to be in this situation? And definitely take those type of things into account.
Talking about a red light and traffic situation, they're going on steroids in Washington, D.C. They're adding hundreds of cameras, not just red light cameras. Now they're doing stop sign cameras. They're going to take people's pictures.
Like in Vegas.
Exactly. If they didn't stop in exactly the right place for exactly the right amount of time. That's why we need to reassert juries. That's why we need to, that was a key component of the people's check on abuse of power. Let's go to, thank you for calling, Bubba. Let's go to Chris in Florida. Chris, you have anything to add?
Just we all ought to have the confidence to demand a jury trial, and I'm looking at an article from 2000 from the now defunct Spotlight that states that in 24 of the state's constitutions, it does uphold jurors' rights and the right to vote their conscience. And by the way, you'd love to interview Mark Schmitter of FIJA, and you can find him on Facebook. He's out of Orlando. He just, this past June 4th, was released after 104 days because he violated Judge Harry Belvin's order, his administrative order in Orlando, to not be able to hand out flyers, which he did in front of the Orange County Courthouse, and for him not being in the free speech zone when he did so. So Mark Schmitter would be a great guest to have on. Now, there's a very big, there's a potential issue as a juror when you let your fellow jurors know of their rights to vote their consciences, because they might tell the judge that they're being misdirected by the judge and the prosecuting attorney, and they can disregard their instructions, their misdirections.
That's
so
right.
You could risk being replaced by an alternate juror and risk contempt. So that's why it's so important to harp on this issue as much as possible beforehand.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. If you start talking about jury nullification, they have alternate jurors, and they'll just remove you in most cases because the judges essentially can kind of do what they want to. It shouldn't be that way. It should be the juries were designed as a check. They were designed as a way for us to watch each other's backs. And that's a very important thing. We have to take that power back. It's something that one person can do. One person can stand up to tyranny in a jury. Stay tuned. We'll be right back and take more of your calls with Jakari Jackson.
You better watch out, you sure better cry. You're at least gonna pout, and I'm telling you why. Privacy is leaving your town.
Is your cell phone being used to build a profile on you? Give the gift of privacy and block unwanted cell phone spying with the Privacy Case from PrivacyCase.com.
They're making their list, they're checking them twice. They're gonna make up who's been naughty or nice.
The problem is real, and so is the solution. Go to PrivacyCase.com because
they see you when you're sleeping. They listen when you're awake. They can tell us all you've been bad when you've been good. So get yourself a privacy case. Oh,
now through December 31st, buy yourself an American-made privacy case and give one for only $79.95 each. Go to PrivacyCase.com today. The Privacy Case, because there is a case for privacy.
This holiday season, get your family prepared at Emergency Essentials. You know us for our low prices and our high-quality emergency preparedness supplies. Now we're lowering our prices even more for our Black Friday sale. We have doorbusters up to 70% off. Sign up for our email newsletter to be the first to know all the details. Starts Friday, 8 a.m. Mountain Time. Visit Emergency Essentials at BePrepared.com and sign up today. The choice is clear. Be unprepared or BePrepared.com.
That's the sound of a .44 Magnum and Trauma Max, a high-tech hybrid Kevlar bulletproof vest from InfidelBodyArmor.com will stop it and most pistol rounds. Trauma Max is a major breakthrough in pistol-rated body armor, and prices start at just $170 per insert. More protection, more stopping power, more mobility, and it weighs less than 5 pounds. Get details at InfidelBodyArmor.com. That's INFIDEL BodyArmor.com.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
The Genesis Communications Radio Network proudly presents The Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
Welcome back to The Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight filling in for Alex, and I'm joined here in studio with Jakari Jackson. Just before the break, we were talking about a case here in Texas, in Tarrant County, where a judge got very upset with a jury. He said to them, I've been in this such a long time, I know better than to get angry with you, but you just decided to ignore the law. You know you did.
No,
he said,
they ignored him.
Yeah, exactly. He said, for whatever reason, well, they did nullify the law because they had a strict limit on the law, but the jurors believed that it was within the tolerance of the machine, and so they allowed the guy to go because it's not just the law. It's not just that they disagreed in trying to nullify laws against drunk driving. They maybe disagreed with the definition of what drunk driving was, or maybe they disagreed with the fact that the machine, he was right at the limit, and so they thought that maybe there was some room for error there. They were going to cut the guy some slack. The point is, juries are there to judge the law and the way the law is being applied and the way the penalties are set up. They're there to give justice to the defendants. This is what else he said. He said, for whatever reason, you chose to ignore that part of the evidence, and you have a right to do that. You have a right to do that. He admitted that, see? It's called jury nullification. This is what the judge said. It's when a jury decides to ignore the law or ignore the evidence. And I would add, it's when they have justice is their top priority. And that's something that was, the jury system was set up as a check against power of government. When you are looking for something to do against tyranny, what can one person do? Well, one person can stand up for justice for their fellow man. That's
exactly what we need to happen. Like you said, it can be one person that changed the tide of a court case. And, people need to be aware of these things.
That's right. We've got a couple of callers who've called in. We got Michael in Arizona. Michael, what do you think about jury nullification?
You hear me?
Yes.
Hey, David and Jakari. Nice to talk to you.
Good talking to you.
I wanted to get on earlier about the police state and the pills and that sort of thing. I had something to say about that. But with regards to the whole jury nullification thing, I have a personal experience because I've been a registered voter ever since I was 18. I'm 46 now, pushing 47. I've voted every election, but that's how you get sequestered. I go into the courtroom and they're going through the jury selection thing. There's this young lady. She was apparently a new driver, and she ran through a stop sign and demolished this woman. This older woman, probably about 60 years old or so, and the woman was in a wheelchair. She was obviously, I felt sorry for both of them.
Right.
Here's this young girl, and here's this old lady, and the old lady's just train wrecked. What got me out of jury duty was they said, is anybody familiar with the intersection? And I raised my hand because it was in the neighborhood I grew up in. I walked through that intersection numerous times. Well, they said, okay, they said that when the jury was selection, they would probably they said don't go to this intersection until we take you there. Like they were going to go on a field trip. If you are selected for the jury, they released me. And on my way home, I was walking because I live close to downtown, close to the courthouse. And I walked through that intersection, and the stop sign was hidden behind a telephone pole. And besides that, there was city property where there was bushes and trees grown over.
Yeah, overgrowth.
Even covered the telephone pole that was covering the stop sign.
Well, that's exactly why we need to have juries. And, your experience as a juror is something that's really rare anymore. I remember my parents' generation, I remember hearing the adults talking quite a bit about being called for jury duty. It rarely happens anymore. And the reason it rarely happens is because most juries allow themselves to be totally railroaded by the judge, by the judicial system. So they become essentially rubber stamps. People understand that, and so does the government. And so what they do is they put all these extra charges on people and say, we'll take off these other charges if you plead guilty to those. Well, we're going to be back tomorrow at 11 Central, and we're going to continue on fighting tyranny here on InfoWars. So stay tuned.
InfoWars Nightly News tonight, 7 p.m. Central, Leanne McAdoo.
That's right.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film